Alright, it's that time of year again, people, where we celebrate some of the year's best games, as well as some of the more disappointing ones we're going to be looking at. So you guys who have been long-term subscribers of mine know that this has pretty much been the format for, I believe, the third year now that I'm doing this. I started this back in 2012, I believe. Then it was 2013. This is 2014. So yeah, this is the third year for this format of the Video Game Awards. So thank you guys who have stuck in there and have been patient for me to get this out. It's just been a lot of work trying to play through all those games. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get through all of them. If you guys watched my VGA update, you guys know which games I did not have a chance to play, which ones I had to push off till later, that unfortunately are not going to be awarded in this award show of mine. Now keep in mind that those games that I decided to skip and I will be playing at a later date will still be mentioned in the VGAs as part of the game run coming up next, but they just won't be, given awards since I didn't really play them. It would be unfair to me to give them awards if I didn't even play the game. So this is pretty much going to be the same format. Alright, we're going to have 10 categories. We're going to have the top 10 best stories of 2014, the top 5 most visually immersive games. We're going to have the top 5 most fun games to play. We're going to have the best soundtrack, we're going to have the best protagonist, the best antagonist, the most fun multiplayer. There's going to be a lot of different categories here, and I'm going to try and give every single game a fair share. We're going to award some indie games that did really well, some AAA games. We're going to look at some of the more disappointing games that came out, as well as take a look at our top 5, my top 5 most anticipated games for 2015. Alright? So, without further ado, let's get this started and start with the 2014 video game run.
Thief, Castlevania, Lords of Shadow 2, Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes, Infamous, Second Son, Trials Fusion, Daylight, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Octodad, Wolfenstein: The New Order, Watch Dogs, Murdered: Sole Suspect, Enemy Front, Entwined, Among the Sleep, Sniper Elite 3, Telltale's The Wolf Among Us Season 1, Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 2, Hohokum, Infamous: First Light, The Sims 4, Destiny, D4: Dark Dreams Don't Die Season 1, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Forza Horizon 2, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, Sherlock Holmes: Crimes and Punishments, Alien: Isolation, The Evil Within, Shadow Warrior, Grid Autosport, Sunset Overdrive, Call of Duty: Advanced Warfare, Assassin's Creed: Unity, Far Cry 4, The Crew, Drive Club, Titanfall,
Alright, so that was the game run for 2014. Keep in mind, again, if you guys actually watched the 2014 VJ's update, you guys know that there are 5 out of however many of those games that I mentioned that I did not have a chance to play. I still felt that it was important to at least include those in the list of 2014 releases that I actually have. So all those games I actually own, again, there are 5 of them that I did not have a chance to play yet, so they won't be featured in this award show, receiving awards and whatnot. Alright, so let's start off with our first category with our top 5 most fun multiplayer games. Again, this is the most fun, not the best quality. So even though the quality of multiplayer may not have been as feature-packed as some of these other multiplayer games, I still had a lot of fun playing these, and I wanted to give them a chance to win an award. So let's take a look at the top 5 best multiplayer games of 2014.
Number 5, Assassin's Creed Unity. So this may come as a surprise to some people, and honestly, I can't really talk much about it because I didn't play much of the cooperative part of Assassin's Creed Unity, but I did try it out a few times, playing with a few randoms, and I think the concept of the game is cool, and I really liked how they paid attention to creating a more story cinematic experience. You know, sort of when you go into the cooperative mode, you have this intro cutscene showing your target and basically explaining why he's an assassination target, and you know, different objects and points of interest that you have throughout the area. And I really like the attention to detail, that it wasn't just this, oh, you're in co-op, here you go, here's some guy to kill, and just go ahead and do it. They actually have cutscenes and stuff, and I mean, most multiplayer games, it's just you playing the experience. And anyway, it was really nice how they really paid attention to the cooperative mode in AC Unity, and the cutscenes and stuff really helped bring it to a level of quality that, you know, it wasn't just let's just throw it in there and take care of it. You know, they actually have cutscenes and stuff, and I really like that aspect. So yeah, even though I didn't play much of it, I still enjoyed what I played of it, and I really enjoyed how it was put together. So number 5. Number 4, Forza Horizon 2. So Forza Horizon there was much more of an emphasis on multiplayer in Horizon 2, especially with the Xbox One. You know, it was about the drivatars and about connecting with your friends in this pretty much social online experience. While I didn't play much, I did see the potential, and driving with your friends' drivatars are cool, provided that they actually drive well. And it was one of those. It sort of, you know, adds this, even though you're playing by yourself technically, you know, it sort of adds this level of I guess you can say this level of social interaction that you sort of get when you're playing, you know, by yourself. Because in order to race with my friends on my friends list, they didn't need to be online, they didn't need to be in this race. It was something that, you know, they just have their drivatars and it gets uploaded, and boom, there it is. You know, it's cool, and I enjoyed, you know, driving with a few of my friends, the ones that actually drove well, and there's also different events, you know, you can go around. There's an open world to explore with your friends, and unfortunately, I did not get an opportunity to actually do that. So I did not get the opportunity to actually explore the open world with my friends. But this is something that, you know, I guess you can kind of go back to as your friends are going to be racing around, and you know, just enjoying the scenery and stuff. And it's just a really cool aspect. So I did want to give it number 4. Technically, I did play the game single player, I guess you can say. I didn't really go into a competitive multiplayer or join a crew per se. Just during the time that I was playing it, my friends were not playing this game. So they already played it, or they don't even have an Xbox One. So, but I did want to give the multiplayer at least a shout out, saying that they did a pretty decent job with the aspect of the social feel that you're experiencing throughout the game, even though you are playing single player. So, Forza Horizon 2, number 4. Number 3, Destiny competitive mode. So Destiny, from a competitive multiplayer aspect, the PvP specifically, was, in my honest opinion, I actually really enjoyed the competitive multiplayer. It's fast-paced, it's small, it's small maps, and it's one of those multiplayers that's just really fun to play. So regardless of the main game not being up to par, I did actually enjoy my time I spent in multiplayer, and I enjoyed that what you unlocked during the single player portion of the game, right? The cooperative aspect of the game carried over to the competitive side, and your stats would balance out, so it wouldn't be like someone so overpowered because they have all the exotic gear and stuff. Everything balances out for the competitive side, and you can pretty much get on a good roll. I did pretty well in a few multiplayer matches, just killing people left and right. And the time that I spent playing it, I really did have fun. Will I ever go back to the competitive side now that we're into 2015 and I have all these games I have to play? I'm not really sure. To be honest, I still have the season pass for this game, and I have no interest to even touch the season pass. But we're going to be dwelling on the cooperative aspect of it later on in the show. But as far as the competitive side for multiplayer, had a lot of fun. I thought it was really good, and definitely enjoyed playing it with friends and even by myself with randoms. So good job with the competitive aspect of Destiny. Number 2, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. So here's another surprise. This year wasn't really a big multiplayer focused year. I think we saw a lot more single player games coming out this year, which is awesome, because we haven't really had a year that's come out where it's really been single player focused. Unfortunately, many of the games this year didn't turn out that well. But just talking about Call of Duty specifically here, I enjoyed the multiplayer, and I'm still playing it currently. I'm still trying to go back to it here and there. I remember when I first played it at my friend's house. I played it on Xbox One, and I was surprised at how much the exo movements and the speed and fluidity of the control scheme now really doesn't necessarily change the core aspect of the game, but it makes the matches feel so much more intense and so much more exciting. And that's what I really enjoyed, is when I'm playing the multiplayer of Advanced Warfare, you have people flying all over the place, and yes, there's still bullshit that happens. It still gets frustrating, when you have people doing exploiting certain moves in the game and whatnot. But at the same time, I really had fun playing it. And it in my honest opinion, I thought it was a pretty good multiplayer. It's still, Advanced Warfare does not actually top my favorite Call of Duty, which is the original Black Ops. But I did think Sledgehammer did a really good job. It was a million times better than Ghost, a million times better than Modern Warfare 3, and it was better than Black Ops 2. I still think that the original Black Ops and Modern Warfare 2 just really took it multiplayer wise, but still, Sledgehammer did a pretty good job. The exo movement really brought a real good amount of excitement into the game that I enjoyed. So I like that aspect of the multiplayer, and honestly, I thought it deserved number 2. So here it is. Number 1, Watch Dogs. So another surprise. I guess it would be for those of you guys who actually didn't follow, but Watch Dogs, when I was looking back, right, I was looking back at the games this year, and I was looking back at the videos I did of the multiplayer for those games. I was like, wow, and I remember watching a video of me playing a Watch Dogs multiplayer race with my friend Dylan, and I was just having so much fun. I remember thinking back to that moment, just having so much fun, because the races and just the multiplayer in general for Watch Dogs was really well put together. I didn't like how people could hack your game. I didn't like, it's frustrating when you're doing something in the middle of a single player experience. All of a sudden someone hacks in your game and it's like, oh great, now I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to search around. That kind of gets frustrating. But when you're actually trying to join a race or something like that, or some other competitive multiplayer mode within Watch Dogs that doesn't actually intertwine with the single player. I thought it was really well put together. The races in particular were my favorite. I enjoyed racing against my friend, and just doing those intense matches. We were yelling at each other. We were just having a lot of fun. There's a lot of excitement going on. We were crashing all over the place and just trolling each other. It was just a great a multiplayer when it was put together, and when you're playing with your friends. It was just awesome. So good job over at Ubisoft. I think it's Montreal that did Watch Dogs, so they did a pretty good job. And definitely the races were my favorite aspect of the multiplayer for Watch Dogs, and that's why out of all the multiplayers I really felt like this was the most fun. So yeah, Watch Dogs number 1.
Alright, so those were my top 5 most fun multiplayer games of 2014. I'm sure a lot of you guys were surprised to the first one, as I was. Really, when it came down to it, 2014 was primarily a single player year. We saw a lot of single player games, not really a lot of multiplayer games, even at the indie side. So it was really hard for me to sort of boil it down to games that I really think about games I had fun playing, and it was just one of those difficult years where multiplayer was not really predominantly focused on. So anyway, moving on, we have the top 5 best soundtracks for these games. Now, you guys know I love soundtracks. I don't even listen to the radio in my car. What I usually do is I buy the soundtrack off of Amazon, have it digitally on my phone, and I burn it to a CD, and that's what I listen to just basically on my drive to work, drive to my friend's house, drive to school, like anywhere. I'll be listening to these soundtracks, but not only from games, but across from movies as well. But this is the Video Game Awards, so we're going to be focusing on the best video game soundtracks of 2014. So let's take a look.
Number 5, Destiny. So, stripping Destiny of its gameplay, its non-existent story, and its art direction, visuals, what we have is the soundtrack. And really, this is kind of an interesting story because Bungie actually fired the original composer for this game. There's a big lawsuit over that and stuff that was going on, and I don't know if I guess they hired a new guy, and I'm not really sure if he just picked up where the last guy left off or recreated an entirely new soundtrack. But what we have here in Destiny was a pretty good soundtrack, I would say. It was very I think the best way I can put it is a quote from Angry Joe when he said in his review. He basically said that sometimes the music gets so great that it completely outshines the gameplay and what's going on, in the game itself. And it's such a true statement because, when you listen to the soundtrack, it's just a fantastic score, that gets really epic, but knows how to be ambient and sort of kind of I guess it kind of molds into the world. It sort of feels like, oh wow, you're immersed in the experience almost. The soundtrack for Destiny was pretty good, and I decided to give it number 5 on the spot, so it did make the list. So, but definitely, check it out. I'm gonna be playing clips from these soundtracks at the end of, when I'm done talking here. So definitely check it out. It was a really good soundtrack. Number 4, Alien Isolation. So I had to give Alien Isolation a pick here, a spot here on this list. The developers themselves actually took the original score from the original film and put it in parts in this game. They actually had their original score as well. And I have to say, just wow, it's really cool because, as a fan of the films, like myself, it's when you open a door and you hear that music and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so iconic. It feels like you're part of the film, and I think that this game did that the best of any game I played this year. Is it really felt like you were in the experience and that you were really on this you were in this world. You know, it really felt like you took a trip back to I believe the late 70s is when the first movie came out, and it was like, you know, wow, this is insane. You know, it just feels like you're watching the film again. It feels like you're actually watching a sequel to the film that was like never released. And I love the fact that they took the original soundtrack from the film and then combined it with their own their own music. It was just fantastic. They did a great job. It sounded awesome, and you know, just hearing that iconic music, you know, when you walk in, it was just awesome. So great job with the soundtrack over at Creative Assembly. Number 3, D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die, Season 1. So, I thought about the soundtracks, you know, of all the games I played this year, and this one came to mind. This one has a really cool theme song, and I think that's what I put it on here. It's just a theme song. You know, it's a quirky game made by the guy who did Deadly Premonition. You know, one of those cult hits back on, I think 2 generations ago it was on, right? It was like on the PS2 and on the, I think it was on the Xbox 360. And then it got ported to the PS3 with the director's cut. So, you know, the atmosphere, of course, is really quirky here, but the soundtrack in particular, it has this really cool theme to it, you know? It plays out like a TV show, so, you know, at the beginning of each episode of this season, you sort of, you know, there's that introduction of setting up what this episode is going to be about, and then they play the theme song, and you're like, yeah, this is freaking awesome. It's like I'm watching a really cool TV show. And I really just liked what they did with the whole music, and just really feeling like you're part of this culture that the series, the game series, you know, really puts out. So just great job with the music for this one. I enjoyed the theme song in particular, and yeah, really awesome. Number 2, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. So here's an indie game that I played back on PC earlier this year, back in September, I believe. I really liked the soundtrack for this game, and I actually got the soundtrack for free for pre-ordering it on Steam. It was a pre-order incentive via Steam, and I burned it to a CD, and I listened to it in my car on the way to work and stuff, and I wasn't really in love with it at first, but as I started to listen to it more, I sort of got more and more into it, and I overall really enjoyed the soundtrack. You know, it's one of those really cool themes that you kind of get used to over time, you know, when you're playing the game, and it's like they just did a fantastic job. You know, it has this sort of mysterious, almost horror-like theme to it. But then it mixes in this beautiful atmospheric sort of, you know, music, and it's like it's beautiful but scary at the same time. So they did a really good job with the soundtrack. I really enjoyed it. They have, you know, the piano in there, and they just did a fantastic job. So just great job with The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, the soundtrack for the game. They really did an awesome job, and just, you know, playing it over in my car, I definitely got hooked on the theme for a few weeks. So great job here. Number 1, Ho Hokum. Taking another indie game, this time a PlayStation exclusive indie game. This is Ho Hokum. I know a lot of you guys probably never heard of this game. This game released quietly back in August, I believe. And it's a very weird game. but still the soundtrack for it's mind-blowing. They take their respectively, they don't actually have a original score, but it is a soundtrack that's comprised from different various artists, and it's just it hooks you immediately. The music just it's fantastic. It's like there's times where you're gonna be like bobbing your head and you know really getting you know into the music and stuff, and just enjoy, you know, even though you're playing the game and you're like, I don't really know what to do when playing the game. I you know, I'm kind of bored playing it. It's like you just want to play it for the music. So I actually bought the soundtrack for this separately. I believe I paid like 10 or no, I think like $12 for it, but it came with like 23 songs or something like that. So it came with a lot of music, and just the soundtrack in particular. It's one of those soundtracks again that you can just listen to constantly. It has some really awesome tones to it that really sort of it can change your mood almost. You can be having like a really shitty day and you can like put this soundtrack on and listen to it, and it's like, you know, wow, I feel fine all of a sudden. And you know, it's the music that you can actually zone out to at times. So just awesome job here with the soundtrack. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't stop listening to it for a few months, but you know, it's just it's one of those music selections where they just really did a good job sort of giving you this almost creative thinking aspect on what you're doing. You know, it's like when you listen to this soundtrack, you sort of look at things in a different perspective, if that makes sense. So awesome job with the soundtrack. Definitely enjoyed it, and definitely check it out if you haven't already. I'm sure you can YouTube search it, but it just has some really awesome music.
So those are my top 5 favorite soundtracks for 2014. Again, if you guys haven't actually checked out Hohokum, it's a very interesting game. It doesn't really give you a clear direction as to what you're supposed to do in the game. To be honest, I actually own it, but I probably played it for around 5 or 6 hours, and I haven't gotten a single trophy from the game. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing in the game. It's very odd, but it's one of those games where you're just supposed to explore, and again, buy the soundtrack because it's incredible. So, alright, moving on. Now we get into the top 5 best antagonists for 2014. Now these are the bad guys in video games, of course, that we all hate. So there's a couple in here that I really enjoyed, the actors who played them and how they were developed throughout the story. So let's take a look at the top 5 best antagonists of 2014.
Number 5, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Jonathan Irons. So how could you not give Kevin Spacey an award here? I mean, seriously. I thought that his character was really well developed. There were better villains in Call of Duty, I can say, though. I really felt like the best villain out of all the villains, I really felt the best villain was the guy from Black Ops 2. I forgot his name, but you know, the Mexican guy. He was just a really well developed character. But as far as Kevin Spacey goes, he really nailed this role. You know, he really got into it, and I really did enjoy him being, I guess, the villain, and you know, being sort of this guy who's all about power, this guy who thinks he knows better than the whole entire world. And I just really enjoyed seeing his character grow, and you know, seeing seeing how the story progressed with him being involved. You know, it was just a really cool guy. You know, it's an interesting character. He really is, because he doesn't, you know, outright. He's one of those, you know, characters, one of those villains, I should say, that believes that, you know, he really is helping the situation, but when in fact he's just making it worse. But anyway, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Jonathan Irons, Kevin Spacey did a good job, and yeah. Number 4, Wolfenstein New Order, Frau Angel. So I hope I pronounced that right. don't know how to pronounce this girl's name. It's just strongly German. So, her character was crazy. I mean, she was like nuts, and I really like whenever she got into the scene, it just gave you sort of these chills. Like, oh my god, you're like, because here's someone who's entirely unpredictable, and someone who's extremely, she's just old lady, and it's like. She's freaking psychotic, it's like she's scared. You get scared of her at times, and she just has one of those personalities that's like really well developed, and you're just like, it's sort of like you have this like this mood going on that you're just like, I do not want to be near her again. So. She is a really interesting villain. You can't even see throughout the game. You can't even seem to get rid of her. It's like she's such like a badass at the same time. Where like, oh, you're like shoot her in the face, and all of a sudden like she comes back, and it's like oh, geez, it's a freaking Terminator. So I really enjoyed her character. I thought they did a fantastic job developing her, and just as part of an antagonist, she just was. Like an arch enemy, like a real true arch enemy, just really well done. So good job with I hope I pronounced it right, Frau Angel. All right. Number 3, Alien Isolation, The Alien. So I actually thought, could I really put The Alien technically? Could I put The Alien as part of the best antagonists? Because really, it's like when you talk about antagonists, the antagonist itself is a character that is supposed to be, the villain, the person that's supposed to stop the good guy. And I thought hard about this. I'm like, can I really put the alien technically? Because it's not typically a human, it's a living being. It's some sort of hybrid of some insect, something like that, right? It's an alien creature, but it is living, and it's not it's not some robot or some environment thing. It's an actual being. And I ended up saying, okay, yes, I think I can put the alien as part of the best antagonist. All right, this thing was, excuse me, a motherfucker, and it was extremely visceral. There are times where you hated the alien. There are times where you were just completely scared of the alien. And there are times where the alien actually helped you out by killing all the other people in the room. So I really felt like in terms of the alien, even though you can't really develop it as this personality type of thing, it did have a very strong, it's what the game is about. It's what Alien is about. It's about the alien itself and about surviving this highly intelligent organism that's faster, stronger, and deadlier than you are. And I really enjoyed Alien Isolation, playing against the alien and really trying to outsmart it at times. And you really felt rewarded when you got through it. I mean, I sort of played this game with the controller in my hand, and my mouth was like hanging wide open. I was like, when I'm trying to get through a level, like I myself was in shock. Just trying to slowly move past the thing. When you heard the thing stomp as it's coming closer towards you, I mean, it just sends these chills up your spine. So I ended up picking the Alien as number 3 for the best antagonist in video games for 2014, and well deserved. Really well deserved. It was a really they really did a good job creating this thing, giving it a lifelike appearance. Number 2, Infamous Second Son, Augustine. So I said this a few videos back. I believe when I did my Infamous First Light impressions, I said this, that I really did feel like Brooke Augustine was an extremely well-developed character as far as the villains go, because again, she had this sort of personality where she believes that she's doing all this good, and she believes she's helping people, and it's sort of like she has this ultimate goal to protect people of her kind by imprisoning them in this facility and training them to sort of get better powers and get more used to their powers, sort of help them in these situations. I did feel like she was really well developed and she was really well written at the same time. Because there are times where she really, you know, she got on your nerves and you really did. I don't want to necessarily hate her, but you were annoyed with her. And that there are times where, you know, she was talking and she does make sense. You know, she's what she's proposing is actually not all batshit crazy. So I really I sort of enjoyed playing with her. There's this one boss fight in Infamous Second Son where she wants you to use your other abilities. You know, in Infamous Second Son, you have the ability to steal other people's powers. And she's like, well, I heard that you could steal other people's powers. And she tries to get you to the point where she wants you to drain this neon power in this boss fight. And all she does is she puts up neon powers near you, like, you know, neon for you to drain and for you to use the power near you. And it's your player choice throughout the boss battle whether you want to show off your neon powers to her or not. And I ended up beating the whole boss battle just by using my standard fire powers. And it's kind of funny because she got pissed. She was like, "Damn it, you know, I really wanted to see those neon powers." And it's like, I just loved getting on her nerves through that. You know, really playing with that character and kind of toying with her and stuff. But in the end, I really did feel she was well developed. Because she appears very sympathetic, you know, at times, especially in First Light when you see her through the cutscene. She's very sympathetic of Fetch's story, and in Second Son at the same time, she definitely shows that she can be visceral and be a badass and be this person that it's like, you know, wow, you know, this is not someone I want to mess with. So great job developing her. I really felt that she really helped make the story much more interesting, and definitely was a great motivation to beat her. So, good job. Number 1, The Wolf Among Us, Season 1, Bloody Mary. This bitch was awesome. And at the same time, she was like the most, you know, awesome villain to have. She really was the most awesome villain to have. And this is why I gave her specifically number 1, is because of how well she was written and just how much of a careless badass she was. I mean, she like literally walks. Her introduction is like literally her with an axe. She has like a big giant axe from the Woodsman, right? And she just walks up and she's like, you know, I'm gonna take your POIs, your person of interest, you know, and you're like, you know, because you're supposed to be playing the sheriff, right? As Bigby Wolf, you're like, the hell you are. And she's like, she has this like silver pistol and she just shoots you in the back and stuff, and it's like, she just, an excellent, well-developed character. I just explode with excitement talking about her because of how just well she was, and especially the last final boss fight with her. You're just like, you know, she pulls all these crazy tricks, and you're just like, damn, you know, just an awesome character. I felt that she was like honestly one of the most well-developed characters in the whole series. So really good job developing her. I just, an awesome villain to have. I'm just speechless.
Alright, so those are my top 5 favorite antagonists of 2014. Next, we're going to be looking at the polar opposite of that and taking a look at the top 5 best protagonists of 2014. Now, these are the people that we generally play in games under certain circumstances and different stories. Sometimes we have multiple protagonists in a story, but regardless, we're taking a look at some of the favorite people, some of my favorite people that we were able to play throughout the year of 2014. So let's take a look.
Number 5, Assassin's Creed Unity, Arno Victor Dorian. So I felt that Arno was the closest thing that we've had to an Ezio-like character. Pretty much in every Assassin's Creed, we've been trying to basically beat or, you know, surpass the amazing epicness and just amazing story and amazing character and just amazing everything that was Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed 2 was just an all-around amazing title. And so Ubisoft themselves have been trying to, you know, every single iteration has been trying to outdo Assassin's Creed 2. And Assassin's Creed Unity, I didn't feel really did that, although there were a lot of cool advancements. Arno was the closest thing that we've ever had to a character that was like Ezio. And Ezio was a very charismatic guy, very, he had a personality that you could really attach yourself to, and that he wasn't just this mindless, you go here and you do this and you do this and you do that. And I really felt that Arno sort of had this trait that, he was, yes, a very charismatic guy, he had a personality, but I felt that in many times throughout the game, it was like, oh, you had to go do this, and just this is your mission. And it was like more of an errand boy rather than a guy trying to, sort of redeem himself. You had Assassin's Creed 2 was more about revenge. Assassin's Creed Unity is in a way about revenge, but in Arno's situation, it's more of a redeeming story about him trying to make up for all the mistakes he's made in the past, and that his mistakes actually, affected others around him. So I still enjoyed Arno. I thought he was a good character, a step in the right direction towards someone that we can have that's even better than Ezio. It's just going to be really hard since we had 3 Assassin's Creed titles that have further developed Ezio, and it's going to be definitely hard to try and build someone up who's just as charismatic, who's just as likable, and has just as strong, if not a stronger, story to tell. But I still felt that Arno was one of the best protagonists that we've had for 2014. Number 4, Alien Isolation, Amanda Ripley. Amanda Ripley's character is supposed to be the daughter of Ellen Ripley, who was the main character in the film Alien, and throughout the Alien saga, I guess you can say. I enjoyed her character a lot. I felt that there are times where she's very sort of hot-headed, where she sort of has this respectable job, and she works for Weyland-Yutani. And she sort of has this, mission where it's like, I gotta go and, find out what happened to my mom, and she's been searching, and when we've come to her in the story, she's basically been working, and this has always been like a side objective to her, is to try to find her mother. And an opportunity arises, and she basically takes it, of course, to find out what really happened. They found the flight recorder of the Nostromo, and it's a very good build up for a character that's trying to, who's emotionally going through this situation of trying to find out what happened to her long lost loved mother. And if you've seen the Alien films, it's really no surprise that she doesn't find her mother. It's not me spoiling anything, but it is still a story that puts her through a lot of challenges and a lot of stress, and we see a very fearful side to her, where she's very scared, of course, of what's going. You're in the room with the alien, of course you'd be scared, but also this sense of confidence that she has to get through it in some way, and that she's willing to risk her life to go out there and do the impossible. And of course, towards the latter half of the story, she starts to get a little bit more confident. You start to see her take on a little bit more risk, and I really enjoyed how towards around the 80% mark of the game's story, you have this emotional moment where she gets to hear some dialogues, some recording from her mother, and it's this really, really heartfelt, emotional moment throughout the game that really does it sort of does give you that emotional, this emotional, this emotional element that it needed. It's from like throughout the game, it was just a horror game, and I mean the emotional connection was there, but it wasn't really shown, and that was the first time it was really shown throughout that whole story. And I really enjoyed that segment of the game, and just seeing her grow and seeing her take on more challenges and more risks. And she was just very well developed. That was someone that you could really attach yourself to, and she really felt like when she was written, she really did feel like she was part of the alien, the lore, the theme, the story. It felt that she just fit perfectly in there, and I really think they did a good job of writing her character and definitely, putting her through all these different challenges to make her believable as well as relatable. Number 3, Wolfenstein: The New Order, B.J. Blazkowicz. So, B.J. Blazkowicz was a great character. Of course, he's iconic. You know, you have that long-term history of him being the character in Wolfenstein games. But this is really the first Wolfenstein game we really had where, for the first time ever, BJ was written and portrayed as a realistic person. You had Wolfenstein 2009, which was a good game, but still, the hero wasn't really... He wasn't really developed in a sense that this is someone who had like a personality and this is someone who had a goal. It was just sort of, he was your character in this first-person shooter, a really solid first-person shooter. And for the first time in the New Order and for the Wolfenstein series, we really saw an emotional, predominant, and realistic portrayal of what a real man would be, as BJ Blazkowicz. What would he really be like in real life? And I really, really enjoyed this character for the emotional part of it too, is because throughout the game, he's put in war, and throughout the story, he is narrating the story of him dreaming back, and he's thinking about the good life, him being happy, and him loving someone. And you go back to the war, and he's this this guy who really does care about his fallen comrades. Like, people just... It's not like in the previous games or previous first-person shooters where people die and it's like, it's a first-person shooter, someone just died next to me, whatever, I'll just keep shooting the enemy. You actually see him care, and you actually see him, helping out others and stuff, especially through the beginning of the game where there's a lot of young people in the war where they're scared and stuff, and he's like, just breathe like that, and just keep calm, and everything's gonna be all right. I got you back. And it was so awesome to have someone who was realistic and also emotional and relatable for the first time. I want to say in the Wolfenstein series, he was a relatable character. He wasn't just pixels on screen. He wasn't just there for the sense of being there to progress a story with a character. He was there to really bring this emotional connection forward, and to really sit there and be this motivational guy, this guy that people could look up to, this guy that could get the job done. And I really, really like that. So really good job writing BJ Blazkowicz in the New Order. I thought he was just excellently well written, and definitely earned a spot in my top 5 favorite protagonists of 2014. Number 2, Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 2, Clementine. Clementine is a character that we've been introduced to in the first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead. And she wasn't your character. She was a very, she was your, I don't want to really say escort, because it wasn't really like that, but she was this emotional connection that your main character, Lee, had with her. And she is brought, many years later, in the second season. She is, now a young teenager, and she is brought into this world, and she has to grow up first. And I really enjoyed seeing her being able to take care of herself, as well as be this brutal, very, very, I don't want to say brutal in the sense that she has no remorse or she doesn't do things in a realistic way, but she's able to make tough decisions. And she's able to be smart and intelligent and strategic about what she does in a rather in a hostile environment, in a situation where other people would just be like, freaking out, because I don't know what to do. She would be able to make those decisions. I felt that The Walking Dead Season 2 overall did not have the emotional punch that the first season did, and I did feel that she wasn't as strong as a character as Lee was. But because we were already emotionally connected throughout the first season, I really did feel like that helped a lot in Season 2. And I did enjoy playing as her. I enjoyed her character. I enjoyed the emotional things that she went through. And just watching her grow, it was quite an extraordinary tale. So I felt that she was really well written. That she really did carry a lot of emotional weight throughout the story, and that really helped bring the second season much higher, as having that character. So good job with Clementine. Number 1, Telltale's The Wolf Among Us, Big B Wolf. Okay, so another Telltale game. This is The Wolf Among Us this time, which is, I don't know if a lot of people played it as much as The Walking Dead, but this is a series I particularly really liked. I really did feel that Bigby Wolf was such a great character. You know, he was that type of guy who you couldn't really get, I want to say, emotionally involved with in the first season, or the first episode, excuse me. But as the story progressed, as we got more episodes, and as we started playing more as him, we really saw him grow, and we saw him. I want to say we saw a more emotional side to him that generally, you know, that we wouldn't have seen. And I really liked that, is that it wasn't just this guy who was like, I'm gonna kill you because I'm the big bad wolf, and rah. You know, this is a guy who listened to reason, a guy who was able to be badass, but at the same time able to be sympathetic when he needed to be. Many people would argue that he was a complete dick and that he just didn't care. But I sort of disagree, because Telltale's games are all about choice, and your choice in where the direction of the story goes, your choice in where the direction of what you say, and your relationships with people. And I didn't make Bigby such a badass asshole as some of others might have, but I made him a very a person, like I said, who's able to be aggressive, and who was able to make tough decisions when he needed to be. But when he also needed to be, he could have been sympathetic, and he could have been empathetic as well, you know. So I really enjoyed that about The Wolf Among Us. I really felt that he was a great character. I really felt attached to him, and I really did feel like he carried the story a lot throughout the game. Not that the other cast wasn't as well developed, because they were, but he was just such an interesting guy, and just seeing him, you know, through these situations and making these tough decisions and stuff was quite a blast, as well as shocking at times. So great job with The Wolf Among Us, and Bigby Wolf in particular.
Alright, so those were my top 5 favorite protagonists of 2014. I definitely enjoyed learning about those people's story, as well as you know, experiencing their journey throughout some of these video games. It was just really, really well done. Next, we're going to be looking at the top 5 best game moments. Now, these typically are special levels and set pieces throughout games that just really, really had an effect on me. Ones that I was just like, wow, this is amazing, or, you know, this is a really emotional, epic moment. All right, so here we're going to be taking a look at a few of these games that had some of my favorite moments of 2014, my top 5 favorite moments of 2014, and let's get right to it.
Number 5, Sniper Elite 3, every single bullet cam. Sniper Elite 3's, and really Sniper Elite's trademark, is that it includes a bullet death cam. Because you are a sniper and you can make these amazing long shots of like miles away and get headshots and whatnot. One of the trademark things of this game is that every single kill, if you set it to be, or every other kill or whatever, has a bullet cam, and it will follow the bullet as it shoots out from the muzzle of your sniper rifle all the way as it travels miles and miles and miles and miles away to hit the guy either in the face, and what it'll do is it'll actually go in an X-ray mode, and you'll see in real time as the bullet hits him, going through his skull, splattering his brains all over the place, or maybe destroying his eye as it comes out the other side. And it's such a gruesome, very iconic thing about the game. You know, there's a lot of other games that kind of try to copy it, but they do an awful job. They don't show the X-ray stuff with the bone structure. I mean, some of it is just brutal and just cringing. You know, it's like you can actually, it actually shows in real time you shooting a guy's testicles off. Like, and it will show them exploding. It's just very graphic, and it's at the same time it's one of the most rewarding experiences ever, because even though it's extremely violent, you really feel accomplished when you pull off. It's like, oh my gosh, that was a tough shot, but that looked amazing. And in Sniper Elite 3, they did an excellent job making every single bullet cam pretty much original. You know, you have all these different camera angles, and then you have all these cool sound effects, and then just seeing it. I mean, even when the guy's wearing a helmet, you'll have like the metal shards like chipping away from his helmet as the bullet breaks it and goes right into the guy's skull. So excellent job with the sniper kill cams. I just wanted to include them in the best moments because they really are such a memorable part of not only the game, but just of most of every single other game in general, you know, that I played. This is something that I thought you can always look back on and you just be like, yeah, that was such an awesome kill I pulled off. when I did that. So great job with the bullet kill cams in Sniper Elite 3. 4. The Wolf Among Us Bloody Mary boss fight. So I mentioned this in my top 5 best antagonists, is that I felt that Bloody Mary was one of the best developed antagonists of 2014. And I was talking about the boss fight, and the boss fight is definitely deserves a spot as one of the most memorable gaming moments of 2014. In this boss fight, and I don't want to describe to avoid spoilers and stuff, but in this boss fight, you basically are fighting against her, and she can like duplicate herself, and she's extremely fast. So there are times where you're just walking around in a dark, empty corridor, and you're just walking and walking and walking, and then she'll just like zip by and just slap, just basically cut your arm or whatever. And it's just like, geez, and you have to react, right? Because it's Telltale's games, a lot of it is a quick time event, so you have to like react, and you have to kind of press it really quick in order to prevent stuff like that. But it's her boss fight in particular was just really, really awesome. I really liked it, the way it was formatted, especially at the end where Big B goes like full-blown, big bad wolf, and he just completely crushes her. You guys got to play the game. It's such an awesome series, and the boss fight was definitely one of the best moments of 2014. Number 3, Wolfenstein: The New Order Humanoid Boss Battle. So there was a very, very emotional boss battle, and this has happened towards the end. There's a boss battle here where basically, I don't want to spoil it because it's such a big moment for the story, and the story is fantastic, and I will be talking about the story later. Hint, hint. But there's this boss battle here where basically there's a twist that happens, and you have to fight a robotic version of someone you know. And it's an emotional boss fight as well as a really good boss fight, because a lot of it is like, oh great, I know this person, I care about this person, I have to keep shooting him, but I don't want to hurt him because I know this person, right? It sort of has that emotional connection to it, and just seeing, when the boss battle is over and you basically have to save him, in like one of the worst ways is you saving him is actually the act of death. And it's like, it was just an emotional, really epic boss battle, one that was such a twist. It was a high part for the story, and just to follow that up with such a memorable boss battle was just extremely well done. So great job with that boss battle, very emotional, because of the nature of it and who you were fighting against, and just really, really, really well developed. Number 2, Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, the opening sequence. So this is the only time, actually this won't be the only time, I'm going to be talking about Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. The opening sequence for this game is amazing. The opening sequence of this game alone is what actually made me go out and pre-order and purchase it. Like, and the thing is, just download the demo. The opening sequence of this game was the demo for the game, and I downloaded this on PC because I always liked the original Lords of Shadow. I thought it was a really good game, a really awesome game, right? So I downloaded the demo for Lords of Shadow 2, and I popped it in, and I was like completely blown away. The graphics were outstanding. You had these large-scale epic boss battles, and it was cinematic too. It wasn't just you sitting there smashing buttons as the character is doing a hack and slash move. It is a hack and slash game, but the camera's panning around at different angles. It's going like a full-scale battle, and you're climbing and dodging projectiles and different things, and it's just like insane. The amount of epicness that opening sequence gave off was just, it was exceptional. It's a shame that the entire game did not actually keep that, because it's the opening sequence for Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 is actually the best moments in the entire game, and it definitely earned a spot on my most memorable gaming moment. But just, it's a shame that the whole game was not like that, because it could have been outstanding. Number 1, Alien Isolation, Alien Nest Infiltration. Towards the latter part of the story, we saw Amanda Ripley. She had basically this idea to basically kill all the aliens on the station, and you basically, what you have to do is you have to I think you have to blow up a generator or something. I forgot exactly what you're supposed to do, but you have to go into this part of the station, right? and you take the elevator down. The game loads, and as the elevator opens, you're like introduced to the entire an entire nest of where the aliens, you know, lay their eggs and inhabit and stuff. And it's just such an awesome sequence. It's completely nerve-wracking because you're walking in there, and keep in mind, this is like this is not, you know, some 70s movie set or whatever. This is the next generation of video games here. So we have exceptional lighting, exceptional visuals, 3D sound, reflections off of the water, and just it was mind-blowing because it's like you're walking into this thing, and I walked into this and I'm like, oh my god, right? And I'm walking around, I'm like, okay, fine, there's no aliens yet, okay, so I find out what I'm supposed to do, and you have to do this, I think you have to reset 2 generators, and I reset the first generator, and all of a sudden I heard this like screeching like sound, like you know, sort of like that, like the aliens were coming. I'm like, oh my god. So I start running, right? And all of a sudden this thing just runs, like the alien just runs from around the corner, just runs right in my face and just pushes me on the ground, and next thing you know, I am dead. And so I restart, I try again, and I decide to hide in the cubby. And I hid in the cubby, not kidding you, for 6 minutes. 6 minutes I hid in that cubby because I was so scared. I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know where the alien was. I was so scared to even step outside because I didn't want to die. And it was just, you were so immersed in the experience. It was incredible. Definitely, I think, was the most memorable part of all the games I played in 2014, was just that segment, because it's like, okay, I have to muster up the confidence to get out of this cubby. I have to muster up the confidence to get to the other side of this room in order to restart the second generator. And I know it's going to take time. I know there's going to be a bunch of different aliens as well as face huggers looking around, and I'm scared, but I got to do this. And it was just excellent. It was just an excellent, nerve-wracking, just a great part of the game, the most memorable part of the game, and in my opinion, definitely one of the most memorable experiences of 2014.
Alright, so some of those levels, some of those set pieces were absolutely fantastic. I definitely enjoyed playing through them, as well as just looking back on them. Just the feeling that I had was just it was just amazing. You're in awe. So alright, next we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 most enjoyable games of 2014. Now, these games typically are your games that don't necessarily have the best story, may not have the most impressive graphics, but have the most fun and interesting and engaging gameplay, alright? They can range from a variety of different things, whether there's different stuff going on, but these are the top 5 most enjoyable games that I thought were the best out of the whole year of 2014, so let's take a look.
Five, Watch Dogs. So we all pretty much know that Watch Dogs was, I don't want to say critically panned, but there was a lot of people who completely destroyed the game, stomping on it, saying it was not good, that there was no aspect of the game that wasn't even good at all, to which I say, well, besides the graphics and the story, the game was actually very fun to play. And that's why I'm awarding it number 5 out of the most enjoyable games I played this year. I really had a lot of fun playing this. And yes, the graphics were not up to par to what we saw. Yes, the story was not nearly as interesting, and Aiden was not nearly as interesting as a character. But in terms of the gameplay, I think it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed playing this game a lot. I spent about 45 hours in this game. I did all the side content except the drinking game. I think this drinking game was one of the worst side content you could ever have in a video game. It was so stupid, it was repetitive, and it took so long. So I didn't do the drinking game, but I did every single other side content. I did all the story, and I did the random. What do they call that? The content just appears out of nowhere. I did all the side content, and I played a lot just exploring and visiting all the landmarks and stuff. I had a lot of fun playing this game, and I did not want it to end. I really didn't. I was like, I'm enjoying this too much. I don't want it to end. There are a few games that I felt that, pretty much all the games on this list, I felt that way for. But I was just enjoying the mission structure. I was enjoying the aspect of the game and how basically the city was structured and laid out, and just exploring and just really having a lot of fun customizing your character, finding enough money for that, infiltrating hideouts and hacking signals and stuff to open up your map. I had a lot of fun playing this game. I'm not afraid to admit that, and that's why I gave it number 5 on my top 5 most enjoyable games of 2014. Number 4, Thief. Here's something that I know a lot of people are probably going to be surprised about. And I know to a certain degree a lot of people are going to be disagreeing with me on this. I love stealth games. I will say that again. I love stealth games. So Thief, as a stealth game and as a series that was known for its hardcore stealth roots, I really enjoyed this game. And even though that the game's quality standard was not up to par, I played this game on the PlayStation 4. I thought the graphics looked pretty decent, although there was some outdated stuff. The character models could have looked better. Some of the detail and stuff could have looked a little bit sharper, and the frame rate was a little bit fluctuant here and there. But as far as the stealth mechanics go, I had a lot of fun. I spent 27 hours playing this game. 27 hours finding nearly all collectibles pretty much throughout all the levels in the game. I had it set to a custom difficulty, by the way, and I had it set to I selected this difficulty setting where if any of the enemies saw me, it was game over. I would have to restart that level. And I really I love custom difficulty settings in games, right? And I wanted to play the game hardcore stealth. I wanted to play through the whole game trying to not be seen by anyone, and so I selected that option. That was the reason why I selected that option. If I could do it again today, I would have still done it, but I would have also selected that I can't actually take down enemies. That would have been very, very hard, because there's some sections in the game where you actually have to get through some enemies, and someone's just standing right by the door, and it's kind of hard to get by the door without taking them out, at least. So but I really enjoyed Thief, and I know the game's quality wasn't up to standard, but I spent 27 hours in this game exploring the world, spending my time in it, and going through all the levels without being seen was just a blast. I love stealth games, and this is a stealth game, so obviously I would have a good time playing this. 3. Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. So this is something that I think a lot of people are going to be very disagreeing on, and it's that Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes, although had a lot of controversy for its shortness and the fact that you could really beat the game in 7 minutes just by running through. Really, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes is a glorified demo. But still, I bought the game on release, and I had so much fun playing this game. As a person who isn't a big Metal Gear fan, I got into the series of Metal Gear Solid 4. I liked Metal Gear Solid 4, and there are times where Metal Gear Solid 4 really frustrated me. But overall, I liked Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't know why the ending cutscene had to be 2 hours, but it was, and I sat through that. So, I pretty much got into Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes expecting not really that much in particular. I went in here, I was like, this game looks cool, alright. And the first thing that wowed me were the graphics, of course. Running on the Fox engine, this game just looked incredible. Ran at 60 frames per second, 1080p on PS4, and the graphics looked pretty good. Now, the gameplay aspect of it, I was incredibly surprised, because it was more streamlined, it was more fluid, and everything just handled a lot better. So, I didn't get used to it at first, because I haven't played a Metal Gear Solid game in a long time. So when I jumped into Ground Zeroes, I wasn't doing that well. But when I got used to the controls, and I started redoing levels, I ended up collecting every single collectible in the game. I ended up doing all the missions and getting S ranks on all the missions. That took a while, and by the time I was done with this game, I spent 15 hours in it, finding every single collectible, every audio tape, every sticker, and getting all the S ranks on the missions. I had a good time playing this game. I definitely think I didn't want it to end, by the way, and I'm super, super, super excited for Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. So looking forward to that, and definitely Ground Zeroes was one of the most enjoyable games I played for 2014. Number 2, Alien Isolation. So just like I said for Thief, I love stealth games. And Alien Isolation is a huge stealth game. I think this is why the game may have frustrated a few people, especially when you look at IGN and you look at GameSpot. They're basically the two of the largest gaming media outlets out there. And they gave Alien Isolation like 6 out of 10. I think one was like a 5 out of 10 or something like that. And I'm playing this game, right? And by the way, every single other media outlet gave the game like 8s, 9s, and 10s. So, I mean, the game was getting fantastic scores just except for, IGN and GameSpot. And so I'm playing the game, I'm like, the hell are they talking? Why would they give it a 6 out of 10? Why would they give it a 5.5, 5 out of 10? Like, why would you give it that low of a score? And I realized that the reason why that it received that low of a score from those media outlets, I know I'm kind of going off on a rant here, but just excuse me for a little bit, is that because they played this game and they were on a deadline, where you actually have to get your review out. So they probably their editor probably handed them this game and said, all right, so in isolation, you have 3 days to play this and get your review out, and we'll just see how it goes. All right. So the guy was like, okay, I got 3 days. I have work. I'm married. Shit. Okay. And he pops the game in his console and he's like, okay, I gotta play this. And the game has a very slow and methodical pace. At the same time, it's a stealth game, a hardcore stealth game. There is no other freaking way you're able to play this game other than being stealth. So this is probably what the media outlets did. I can almost guarantee this. Is they picked up the controller and they didn't see the alien around, so they started sprinting. And they were sprinting until they got to the level, and they're like, oh shit, the alien's here. And the alien kept coming at them while they were sprinting. If you played Alien Isolation, you know that you can't run anywhere. That basically the entire game is you crouching. That's the entire game. I'm not kidding you. And to some of you guys who aren't particular fans of stealth games or just don't like the genre in particular, that may be a little bit frustrating to you because you're like, geez, I just want the game to pick up. I just want to go to that elevator, but instead of it taking me 5 seconds to sprint down there, it's taking me 40. And that's just the way the game plays. It's a hardcore stealth game, and this game took me around, I want to say 20 hours, 22 hours, around 20 hours, I would say, from what I remember, to actually get through this game. And I'm just like, I played it on hard, by the way. I played it on hard, and I had a freaking hell of a good time. And the guy on IGN played it on hard and said, don't play on hard, whatever you do, don't play on hard. And I played it on hard. Right? I was like, oh, well, this guy's full of shit. I gotta play this, right? And the game actually recommends you play it on hard. That is the recommended way you're supposed to play the game, is on hard difficulty. And I played the hard mode, and I'm just like, so yes, the game is difficult. Yes, you do die pretty quickly. It is a hardcore survival stealth game. But at the same time, I never felt that in any single point of me playing it on hard difficulty did I ever die, and it was not my fault. I never felt that way. There are moments where the alien itself, although highly intelligent, it does seem to, I guess, have eyes, even though the thing isn't supposed to have eyes at all. It just goes by sound, right? Your sound waves. And there are instances where I did feel like the alien had eyes. And there are other instances where it's like, oh, geez, that was my mistake. I didn't see it there, or I ran when I shouldn't have done so. And so, just awesome. I love this game, and I really did feel like it was number 2 out of the most enjoyable games this year, because it was just a hell of a fun game to play, and I loved it. I had a good time, and definitely pick this game up if you haven't. It sold 1 million copies already, which is a good sign. Hopefully we'll get a sequel, so good job. Number 1, Wolfenstein: The New Order. A first-person shooter gets most enjoyable game of 2014? Yes, it does. Wolfenstein: A New Order was a hell of a great game. a game that was, in my opinion, an advancement, and Cliffy B actually agrees with me too on this, is Wolfenstein New Order was an advancement for the first-person shooter genre. And it was a game that really took itself seriously and really did add all these cool elements. There was stealth and action gameplay, your choice, me being the stealth guy. You already know what I played. Or how I played, rather. And then there are different the way they laid out the levels were just exceptional, because you had like different ways you can go. Once you get the certain tools, you can actually create holes in vents and stuff and climb through the holes in the vents. You could hide behind cover, cut a hole in the piece of metal, and actually, while you're behind cover, fire your gun. And it was such an awesome way, an awesome gameplay structure for a first-person shooter, things that we don't even see. It's unfortunate because you play any of the old school FPSs, Doom, Prey, any of those other games like that, and they're all first-person shooters. But you're playing them and you're like, this game's freaking awesome. What happened to first-person shooters today? Seriously, that's what I want to know. What happened to first-person shooters today? Why are they all linear? Why are they all just about shooting things? I mean, because in Doom you had these wide open levels, and even like you play Half-Life as well too, right? And you're able to walk around at the beginning section of the game. You're able to walk around these large open levels, talk with different NPCs, hack certain things, and it's like all these old school games, and I'm playing it and I'm just like, this is so much better than like 80% of the FPSs that come out this year. It's just, I don't know. But in Wolfenstein: A New Order, they sort of took that gameplay archetype and they sort of modernized it for today. And what they had is large, varied, open levels and a good setup. And you being able to go through stealth or action was your choice. So great job with Wolfenstein: A New Order. I really enjoyed it. Again, it's kind of unfortunate that more first-person shooters don't take that. They'll take elements, that Wolfenstein did, because I really felt that Wolfenstein was in itself an advancement for the FPS genre, and I hope that we see more FPSs that start to take, more of a serious role on, player choice. I would love to see Call of Duty and Battlefield actually have player choice in that you can do stealth or action throughout the game's main campaign. So great job with Wolfenstein. I had a blast playing it, and I did not want it to end. And that is saying something for an FPS.
Alright, so next we're going to be taking a look at our top 5 most visually immersive games. Now keep in mind, this does not mean the game that has the best graphics. Alright, what I typically like to do is I like to make the categories open as well as pretty vague, so that we have a lot of different games being able to be eligible for those categories. It's not just, this is the prettiest game award, the prettiest game, and that's just the prettiest game, but rather a game that does really well in its art direction, a game that goes for some striking, unique, extraordinary design rather than some just detailed, textured, gray, and very stereotypical world. So this is why I do the top 5 most visually immersive games. These are games with the best art direction, the games that were able to engage us further in the world that they are trying to create, and they did a fantastic job. The developers did a fantastic job creating those worlds and getting us involved. So let's take a look at the top 5 most visually immersive games of 2014.
Number 5, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. So as I stated back in my most enjoyable games list, I felt that Metal Gear Solid 5 was a really good game, a really fun game to play, but more importantly here is the graphics and how the game really utilized the next generation technology, great lighting, great visuals. I mean, we were talking about like in-game near CGI levels of visuals, and probably not that good, all right? But if you look at PT, that is a really good example what the Fox engine can do, and that was running on a console game. Apparently PT actually looked a lot better at one point, to which I say it was probably extremely photorealistic. But the graphics were dumbed down to make it look more like an indie game, because it was trying to be, it was trying to hide itself as something other than Silent Hills. But Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes had some of the best visuals, and definitely the art direction. We had great lighting here, excellent rain effects. And you can see how the rain really got Snake's suit wet, as well as seeing the reflections in the ground and whatnot. Now the PC version, you can look at screenshots. The PC version is definitely even more pretty. You have real-time reflections and stuff like that, and that's definitely a more pretty version of the game itself. But me playing it on PS4, I was definitely not disappointed with the visuals and what it was doing. It was like some of the best graphics I've ever seen, and it all ran at 1080p at a fluid 60 frames per second with 0 drops. There was a Digital Foundry test where they did a frame rate, you're doing the frame rate, right, for the game. And seriously, it was 0 frame rate drops. There was not a single frame that was dropped. It stayed at 60 every single second. That is extremely impressive. And they did a great job just optimizing the game for next generation. I mean, just the visuals alone. And there is some pop in if you actually looked off into the distance with your goggles. As you zoom in closer with your goggles off in the distance, stuff will appear there. You'll see like a guy, but when you take your goggles off and you look in that direction, it's like, okay, that building wasn't there, or that fence wasn't there. So the game is optimized to a certain extent because it is a console game. You are limited to the pop-in and the detail that can go off into the distance, but it still looked exceptionally beautiful, still ran, incredibly smooth, and just was an all-around great-looking game. Number 4, Sunset Overdrive. So I wanted to give Sunset Overdrive a little plug. I did have fun with the game. It wasn't amazing by any means, but I did have fun with the game. I did have fun playing it. The graphical art style is something that's definitely an eye catcher here because it is a very cartoony, but at the same time extremely colorful world. We don't see a lot of games these days take a lot of use of color. It's all just gray, warlike, destroyed, post-apocalyptic worlds, or you have the future, and the future is always dark, it's always raining, and it's always a bunch of lights in your face. And it's like we sort of have these cliches of the worlds that we keep using and stuff like that. But Sunset Overdrive here is just, it is a pretty game. It really is. Just the art direction and the colors just really help make the game pop. If you have a OLED TV, a plasma TV, or any TV just with exceptional color reproduction, an IPS monitor as well. I was using a TN panel monitor, so the colors weren't as popping, I guess you could say, as they generally would have been if I used an IPS display. But still, the art direction here was fantastic. When you looked off the actual distance, the backgrounds for Sunset Overdrive, when you look off into the distance, it would look like it was like a mural, a painting. It was kind of like you're in this artistic painted world, and there was pop-in, but as you got close to this stuff, it started taking on a more 3D form. But in the distance, it was like someone painted a mural of the background. And it was just fantastic. So great job here with the visuals and the colors, the use of colors and stuff, just creating this vibrant, colorful world. They did a fantastic job. So cool. Number 3, Alien Isolation. Geez, Alien is taking a lot of awards. When I was writing this down, I didn't even realize that I was awarding Alien as much as I was, or as much as I am currently. But yeah, Alien Isolation. How can you not give them these guys like all these awards that I'm saying? Like, they really did earn it. And just the amount of work that they would have to go through to faithfully recreate a world that felt as real and believable as the movie sets did in the late 70s of Alien. It was just awesome. Just when you're walking around, the game has extremely exceptional lighting effects, has great detail, especially the alien and the character models look all really detailed. And I've actually bought the art book for Alien Isolation, and I took a look at the art book here, and not only does it include concept art for the characters and the game itself, but also character designs and concept art for the film and the film sets and stuff. So if you guys actually have like a $25 to spare or whatever, head over to Amazon and get the official art book for Alien Isolation. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful art, and looking back, again, there's some pictures of the actual movie sets in there and things that they use. It was just awesome. But visually speaking, Alien Isolation completely, recreated its levels and stuff, and tried to create a world that felt true to the films, and using this really old technology, this old, in that perspective, it was supposed to be the future. But today we would laugh at it, because the future from our vision today is all like augmented reality, and lots of glass, and things are just handed to you at your fingerprints. That like in the future back then, it was like you still have these giant monitors and keyboards. It's kind of funny. So just seeing how they recreated the world, and how alive it felt, and how believable it felt. Just awesome job. 2. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Again, this is an indie game that released on PC back in September. It is going to be coming to the PlayStation 4, sometime in 2015. Definitely recommend you pick it up when it does come, because it's a very open-ended game set in this semi-open world, I guess you could say. There's zero loading in this game, and this is what I actually found fantastic, is that you can actually run from and it's a big world. You can actually run from the whole beginning of the level all the way to the end, and there's like zero loading screen. Further to note, there is actually almost zero pop-in. Like, just the level of detail and the distance of objects and stuff is just so it's incredible. You'll be like looking off to the distance, and you can actually see the grass and the physics of the grass as it's moving depending on the wind, way off into the distance, and it's just fantastic. I actually took a lot of screenshots here on Facebook and uploaded them and stuff, and people were just like saying, wow, this is really gorgeous and stuff. So beautiful world. I have no idea what game engine they used to actually create it. It could have been the Unreal Engine, but whatever they used, they did a fantastic job. Definitely great use of visually immersing you in this world. It was beautiful. I love the theme song that went with it as well, and they just did a really great job. Number 1, Assassin's Creed Unity. So if I did not see the actual 4K screenshots for this game online, I probably would have not put this game on this list. Oh my god, the 4K screenshots. I don't know if you guys actually seen this online, but you can actually go online, you can search Assassin's Creed Unity 4K screenshots, and they show the PC version of the game running in real time at 4K resolution, and there's actual screenshots. And it is mind-blowing. It is it is pretty much the closest thing pretty much the best graphics. I'll just say that right now. It's probably the best graphics that we've ever seen. And just the detail that they have, some of it looks completely photorealistic. It's a shame that the game was as buggy and unoptimized as it was, because visually speaking, the game is just gorgeous. You really feel like you're lost. You're visually just lost in this whole world of France during the French Revolution, and it's just like, again, it's crazy. You're just completely blown away. So I just want to mention it here, but definitely go look up online the 4K screenshots, and you'll understand why I put this as number 1, because just the amount of detail and the graphics themselves. The character models look extremely realistic. There's good physics with the characters' clothes and as well as their hair, and they just did a really good job. I just wish they optimized it more, and wish that they fixed all the bugs. Even today, I played Assassin's Creed Unity on the Xbox One, and looked good. The frame rate was, pretty decently stabilized. It did drop here and there, but for the most part, it was playable and manageable. But it's just a shame that the game came out the way that it did. So, but the graphics, just pause this video right now and go look up the 4K screenshots. You'll not be sorry, and you will understand why this is number 1.
Alright, so definitely check out those games for the art direction. They're definitely worth a look at. Just getting lost in those worlds, it's fantastic. So Next, we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 most disappointing games of 2014. We know that 2014 was mostly a disappointing year, and I kind of had a hard. It's kind of funny. I had a hard time picking, this list because there's only 5 games I can add to it. I could expand the list if I wanted to, but in order to keep it short, or in order to keep it within the format, I wanted to do just 5 of those that were just most disappointing above all else. So let's take a look. We had a lot of disappointing games this year, unfortunately, but these are the games that really stood out as just being like, missing the ball on all fronts. It didn't really excel at anything. So let's take a look at the top 5 most disappointing games of 2014.
Number 5, Daylight. So this was an indie game that came out across PlayStation 4 and PC. It was one of the first Unreal Engine 4 games. And its catch, its cool gameplay advertisement that they were pretty much trying to sell you on was that the fact that it pretty much was a generating world where every single corridor and every single turn that you went throughout this game would be something different for every player. So we would all start off in the same spot, and you could go left and I can go right, but if we actually followed the same path, let's say I went left and you went left as well, my room would actually be different than yours. And this would happen going back and forth throughout the whole game, where it would pretty much generate on the fly a randomized room or corridor. And so the catch was that every single playthrough was different. If you replayed this game multiple times, that it would be different. So on paper, that sounds great. But when it came down to the game, it was a horror game. And I thought this was going to be like the next Outlast. I really thought so, because I was like, wow, that seems pretty cool. And this game seems pretty cool. And the graphics seem really good. And unfortunately, it was nowhere near the quality level or even as fun to play or as scary as Outlast was. You're dropped into this world here. It's dark. These dark rooms, and there's 5 or 6 worlds that you go through, and they're varied worlds. All right. And the problem is that this game relies so heavily on cheap jump scares, which listen how stupid this is. So what basically happens is you hear this noise. It's like this weird noise. It's like behind you, right? In your speakers, and you're like, oh, what's that noise? And you turn behind you, and you're supposed to have this weird ghost that goes like, ah! Right? So she scares you, and the longer that you look at the ghost, the more damage that you take. Here's the funny part, is that you can literally ignore all the noises in the game. I'm not kidding you. So you hear like the noise like behind you. You could literally ignore that throughout the entire game, and it would go away. The ghosts only hurt you when you look at them. So you can turn around, look at the ghost, and then turn back around to where you were, and guess what? You don't even get hurt at all. It's so stupid. It was like some of the most laughable just laughable gameplay I've ever seen in like a horror game. Is you only get hurt when you turn around and you look at the ghost, but if you don't look at the ghost, they just go away. And it's hilarious. You'll be playing this game and you're going to be shaking your head like, what the fuck? and that's honestly what I was doing. I was like, why? This is like so stupid. You can literally sprint through the entire game. Your character never gets tired from running. You can literally sprint from the entire, and that's what I did. After playing it through the first 2 levels, I was just like, I don't even want to sit here and do this. So I literally sprinted through the entire latter 3 or 4 levels in the game without getting tired at all. My character would never get tired. You can just hold down L2, and then the character would just sprint, and you would just run away. And guess what? It's like, okay, you hear the noise in the background, right? All you have to do is sit there for a couple seconds, and then the noise will go away, and you can continue on. This game was awful. So you might be asking, well, how's the pre-generated world? How is that Unreal Engine 4 gameplay mechanic work into this? Does it make it better or what? Unfortunately, it makes it more frustrating. there's a lot of the corridors in this game that seem the same. So it's weird because I could have swore I went down a hallway and turned left. I went into an empty room. I'm like, all right, it's an empty room. I went out of the room. I tried to go back that same hallway, and it was different. Like it doesn't generate on the fly you moving forward. It just generates on the fly randomly. So even though if you want to backtrack, guess what? It's a completely different way if you backtrack, which leads to being frustrating because it's like, well, I don't even know the world. It's not like it generates a map. It just generates everything on the fly, and so you can't backtrack and go the way that you went to see. Okay, I'm gonna go the other way, even though this way was a dead end. You can't backtrack because it just generates on the fly, and you don't know how to get back to where you were. Do not buy this game. It is awful. I gave it a 2 out of 5 on PlayStation Network. It sucked. It was frustrating. It was stupid. Some of the most dumb horror. The whole game is a jump scare. That's the whole game. It tries to get you on jump scares, but the game is so stupidly programmed and developed that you can literally sprint through the entire game, not look at any of the enemies, meaning that they will go away just in a few seconds and that they won't even hurt you, and that's it. Not to mention that although the graphics are really nice in detail, the frame rate is completely fluctuant on PlayStation 4. This game drops to the mid to low 20s frequently. And it only maxes out at about 35 frames per second. So it's an unlocked frame rate, but most of the time you're going to be playing in the 20s. Do not buy this game. It's frustrating, and that's why I gave it number 5 on the most disappointing games of 2014. Number 4. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Beanox, what the hell happened? This is one that I unfortunately, I don't want to put this on the list really, but when it came down to it, I just had to. It's unfortunate. If you guys actually played any of the recent Spider-Man games, from Beanox, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions was an excellent game, a really, really good game. It's my favorite Spider-Man game of the last generation. Edge of Time was awful, and then they had The Amazing Spider-Man, which released to coincide with the film. I like The Amazing Spider-Man game a lot. In fact, I liked the game a lot more than I liked the movie. I thought it had a better plot than the movie, and I just liked the way it was put together. So naturally, when they announced Amazing Spider-Man 2, I was like, okay, great. You're gonna go back to the open world design of Spider-Man, and you guys did very well with the Amazing Spider-Man 1. So, I'm gonna look forward to the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I decided to get it on PC, which was a mistake. But anyway, the game came out, and it was like they ruined it. To be fair here, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was developed by a completely different director, so it wasn't the same guy who did The Amazing Spider-Man 1, which is unfortunate because that guy did a fantastic job. But they pulled the camera back. One of the great things about The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was the swinging mechanics and how the camera pulled forward. It was like a very close-up camera view for a Spider-Man, and it made everything just feel much more intense. They pulled the camera back more in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but at the same time, they actually mapped the web slinging to the triggers. So if you want to sling web swing right, you would push the right trigger. If you wanted to go left, you would push the left trigger. So they mapped it to the trigger buttons on where you would like to swing. And it actually, when it came down to it, I think this Spider-Man game actually had the best web swinging in the whole freaking series. Of all the Spider-Man games that have been out, this one had the best freaking web swinging mechanics. It really did. Once you got used to it, you just got used to the flow. And Spider-Man moves extremely quick. Like he's freaking fast. You're gonna be flying like over 100 miles per hour. It's gonna seem like you're going through New York as you're just swinging across all the metropolitan rooftops and whatnot. But when it came down to it, the story of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 sucked. It really did. You had Gwen Stacy, who was non-existent throughout the story, and keep in mind that this wasn't the Amazing Spider-Man game. The first one was actually supposed to be a what-if sequel to the first movie. All right, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game attempts to coincide with the film and everything that's going on in the film. So it is more of a movie licensed. They're all movie licensed titles here, but The Amazing Spider-Man 2 follows the film's plot, or attempts to follow the film's plot, again throwing in various different villains and stuff like that in there. So you had this plot, and first of all, the second movie sucked. It really did. It was an awful movie. So you had the sequel to this game come out, and naturally it sucked. You had Gwen Stacy was not even part of the game at all. It's like she's mentioned, but she's like not part of it. They mentioned like J. Jonah Jameson and he's not part of the game. It's you have all these like characters, all these cool characters that they could have really added like all this cool side content. Like imagine you go into the Daily Bugle and having to do like a picture contest or just doing some tricks and stuff. That would have been cool. All right. For the first time though, they do let you actually play as Peter Parker, and you might think, okay, this is pretty cool. I get to play as Peter Parker. He's like useless. All you get to do is walk around like undercover in some events and parties as a journalist, and then talk to people. And the game has dialogue options, but here's the thing: you have to say every single thing in the dialogue options. So it's not like it's not like Mass Effect where depending on what you say, your relationship with the people and the story will change, and it will affect the story. In The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you have to say every single little thing in the dialogue option, which is like, why would you even include it? It's like you're wasting your time pressing A, B, and X for the dialogue options, but they could have included it in a cutscene, and because it's you have to do it anyway. It's not optional. I didn't like this game. First of all, the gameplay wasn't as fluid. They actually had stealth and stuff in this game, which it worked better, I guess you can say. It was okay, but still. And I played this on the PC. I want you guys to. Here's a little scenario of how unoptimized this game was on PC. All right, I currently have an outdated graphics card, a GTX 560 Ti by EVGA. It's a 4-to-1 edition. It's overclocked with 448 cores. Okay, I can play Crysis 3 1080p high settings and get in the mid 40s, 50 frames per second average. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and look, you can see the graphics aren't really that amazing, but the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I put max settings on at 1080p, and I turn anti-aliasing off and whatnot, and guess what? This game runs at like a subpar 30 frames per second. I'm like, okay, this maybe this game just really is graphic intensive. So I turned down the graphics, but no, the frame rate's not changing. This game's incredibly unoptimized on PC. There's screen tearing out the ass. Even if you have vertical sync on, there's all this screen tearing, and the frame rate is completely fluctuant. It's just, it was a mistake. I should have got this game on PS4. It was a mistake, but seriously, this game, I was just like, wow, because you had such a great first Amazing Spider-Man game, and to follow it up with this lackluster one, it's just, it sucked. I don't know if there's going to be Amazing Spider-Man 3. I don't even know if they're going to continue with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, now that we know that, when Sony got hacked, we heard that Andrew Garfield wasn't returning. So I don't know what they're going to do with the Amazing Spider-Man, but I really think that I really feel like Beanox has a lot of good ideas, but if they were just giving creative control to just make an amazing, something like the Batman Arkham series, a what-if scenario, completely original in its storyline, and to do something like that, that would be awesome. Because I feel like Beanox could definitely be the Rocksteady for the Spider-Man games. They definitely could. They had that potential, and they, like, Shattered Dimensions, great game. The first Amazing Spider-Man, great game. And it's just, they're inconsistent, but I feel like if they are given creative freedom, they really could create something awesome. But they didn't this time. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 sucked. Do not buy it. End of story. Number 3, Titanfall. So, Titanfall was one of the Xbox exclusives, I guess Microsoft exclusive it is on PC, that came out. And this was one of those games that everyone was hyping up, saying that it was going to be like the first real Call of Duty killer, and it was going to like be so much better, and it was going to be awesome. And when you looked at the gameplay, it looked pretty cool. You had jetpacks, and you could do wall running and parkour, as well as mechs and stuff. So I kind of like, okay, was interested in the game. And I played the beta a few times on both on PC and on Xbox One, and I was like, okay, this is pretty fun. And then the game came out, and the game included like the most minimal amount of content I've ever seen in a video. It's like $60 for a multiplayer game, and you're thinking, all right, fine. They couldn't have the resources for a campaign. They claimed that they didn't have the resources for the campaign, and that's why they went with the multiplayer. So I'm like, okay, fine, but the multiplayer is probably going to include like a bunch of maps, and it's probably going to, have like a varied amount of game modes, and then that's it. So that's what we thought. And when it came out, it was like it was seriously like the most minimal amount of content I've ever seen in like a multiplayer game. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, when I'm trying to look up here while I'm doing this is what content it had specifically, but there are only like a handful of maps. I think Battlefield 4 actually included more maps on launch than Titanfall. I'm pretty sure that happened, but they had that. They had like 4 game modes. You had like your campaign mode and like 4 other game modes. It was like, seriously, what the hell? And I know if you start the game up today, if you actually put the game in today, there's a bunch of game modes and there's other maps and stuff like that. But still, the game when it launched had like such a minimal amount of content, and to add insult to injury, the gameplay was actually got really repetitive over time. And when it came down to it, you just kept doing, it was the same format. You would run, kill a bunch of guys, drop down your mech, get in the mech, kill more people, get out of your mech, run around, kill a bunch of guys, drop down your mech, get in the mech, kill a bunch of people in the mech, and then your mech would blow up, and then drop down some more guys, and then it was like the same rinse, wash, and repeat gameplay, and it got bored really fast. After about a solid week of me playing this, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is boring. And really, it was just boring. And it's I felt that the controls and the art direction were actually very solid. The controls were very tight and smooth and responsive, like Call of Duty. Mixed in with a really cool art direction. It's supposed to be this futuristic sort of world. So you had this cool art direction, and the mech gameplay was a cool addition, but the mech gameplay was basically just an overglorified first-person shooter gameplay. It's not like you could like block bullets and stuff, but I mean that's it. It handled like you were just some big fat first-person. You're playing some big fat guy in some first-person shooter. And he would just take longer to run and turn and whatnot. And I just got really bored of the format for this game. That after a solid week of me playing it, I was not interested in playing it anymore. You guys know I did actually upload I actually did get the level 50, so I got to the max ranking that was allowed before you could prestige, I guess. But seriously, for Titanfall 2, and there's pretty much going to be, let's be honest, there's going to be a Titanfall 2, I feel like if they could include a really awesome campaign, a campaign that's emotional, a campaign that's really epic on scale, I really think that this game could benefit from an 8 to 10 hour campaign, and then add the multiplayer in, change up some game modes, get a lot of content in there, and what you have essentially is the potential to be a AAA experience, like a real hardcore game of the year worthy game. And we probably won't be able to see, I doubt we'll see a Titanfall 2. I want to say the earliest we'll probably ever hear about Titanfall 2 is 2017, honestly. So yeah, it has the potential. I feel like they could really do well, and but as far as their first game goes, it was such a lackluster amount of content combined with such a repetitive and simple gameplay structure that overall it just left an experience to be desired. That's it. Number 2, Infamous Second Son. Here's another one that really surprised me. The Infamous Second Son game was just it was such a repetitive experience. and pretty lackluster when it came to being a next-generation Infamous game. To start off, the first Infamous was fantastic. I still think the first Infamous is actually better than the second Infamous. I know a lot of people kind of disagree with me on that, but I actually like the first Infamous more than the second Infamous. The second Infamous was really good, but I didn't like how they made you actually it was like they ran out of ideas in the second Infamous, and they made you go back and try and regain your powers that you already had in the first game. It was like one of those stupid video game things that are written in the story. So, I have to go do a bunch of missions to regain my powers that I've already gained in the first game. But in Infamous Second Son, we had a new character, we had a new locale, and graphically it was a next generation game. This game looked gorgeous graphically. It was such a gorgeous game. But story-wise, I don't think that it made that much of an impact as the first or second one did, although it was good, and it kept me invested. What really did it for me was the gameplay and how lackluster and how uninventive, and it was like the most non-innovative gameplay I've ever seen in like a sequel for a game. It's like you had next generation hardware, and all they did was they add a bunch of powers. Oh, your character can change powers on the fly. He can consume and do multiple. There's like going to be like four or five powers in the game. The problem here is that every single power handles exactly the same. It's like they all have their firing burst one, they all have their sprinting mechanics, and they all have their special rockets and shields and whatnot. But they all handle exactly the same. There's just, okay, one's rock, one's lightning, one's fire, one's neon, and it's like when it gets down to it, you're playing the same. It's like you're using a different power, but it's playing exactly the same as the other ones. So, I just didn't. The gameplay of this game was just so repetitive at times, and I beat the game. I did all the side missions, and I pretty much almost 100% of this game. I think I did all the dead drops as well. So I spent a lot of time in this game and playing it on the good karma missions and whatnot. But seriously, I just felt that Infamous Second Son, for a next generation Infamous game and from an exclusive, and from coming from these guys, Sucker Punch, who normally do put out really solid games, I really felt that Second Son was like a type of game, and really it could have been a lot better. It could have been a lot better for it being a next generation game. It could have been much more appealing, and they could have definitely went back to the drawing board and try to redo core gameplay. I cannot emphasize that enough by some of these games. Some of these games just feel like a sequel, just slapping a number on the box and then shipping it out. No, change your core gameplay. And that's what they needed to do for Infamous for a new generation. Change your core gameplay. But they did not do that. So, anyway, number 2. Number 1, Destiny. This should not even be a surprise to anyone who's watching this. Every single person that I've seen their Video Game Awards or the Game of the Year award show, every single person, Destiny was number 1 or at least in the top 3. So there's not really much I can say regarding this that other people haven't said. I mean, let's start out first with just being false advertising. What we saw in the commercials, whether it be like story information and stuff, was actually not in the full game. And I have friends of mine, my best friends actually, who actually still play this game today. They play it with their friends, doing strikes and doing some missions and stuff. And it's kind of funny because whenever I'm sort of like, seriously, you're still playing Destiny, right? Whenever I comment on that, they're always and whenever we get into not really arguments but debates regarding it, they always say, well, it's an MMO and it's $60. I was like, well, you pay $60 for lackluster content, and it's like ridiculous. There's like nothing in terms of the amount of content. It's very minimal and it's very repetitive, and they're like, well, it doesn't have a subscription, so that's why it's like that. To which I'm like, it's not really an MMO, to be honest, because there's nothing massively multiplayer about the whole game. You only have 4-player or 3 or 4. It's 3, yeah, 3-player cooperative missions, you can have in your party. And it's like when you're even in the game hub, it's not filled with hundreds of people. It's a small place filled with like probably, I want to say 40 people at the most. I mean, Battlefield 4 and the Battlefield series has 64 people playing on a single map. Mag, you guys remember Mag back on PS3? That was an MMO. This was pathetic. So it's funny. We always get into debates and stuff like that, and you know, I talk about some of the story information that some of the trailers and commercials that we've seen of cutscenes and story information for the game were actually not in the main game at all. To which my friend's like, well, it's probably just DLC, and I'm like, so you're gonna advertise the DLC, like, you're going to advertise the main game, then you're going to advertise the DLC, you're going to advertise information about the main game that's separate from the actual package itself. It's like you're going to have to pay extra to get more story information. So you have this lackluster, non-existent story. You don't know, honestly, I don't even know who I was in that game. I just created some character. I don't have no idea what my significance in the world was. I was a guardian, I guess. I had no idea what the Traveler was. It was like this weird orb. There were so many situations throughout the game, I had no idea why I was there doing that mission. So it's like I get on this planet, right? And I don't know why I'm on the planet, other than, you know, I gotta do this thing for the quick story thing. And then it's like you have all these alien factions and stuff, and it's like everything handles exactly the same. It's just a bunch of horde mode enemies, and every single mission, every single level is a freaking it feels like an escort mission. Like, okay, you have to defend the everyone calls them Dinklebots. I'm just gonna call them Dinklebot. You have to defend Dinklebot before and then against hordes of enemies, so we can open a door, and he takes forever to open a freaking door, or to hack a computer. You have to it's some of the most frustrating, most bare bones and just idiotic gameplay in gaming history that I've ever seen. And I'm sure many people are scratching their heads like myself, saying, what the hell? Like, this is Bungie. Who made this game? Because it doesn't feel like Bungie made this game. It doesn't. It does not feel like Bungie made this game at all. It feels like it was handed to some studio full of kids who never developed a video game before in their life, and this is what they came up with. This was pathetic. Non-existent story. You had graphics that were nice, pretty good. Detailed graphics, you know, I enjoyed the graphics, alright, at least. And then the gameplay was just some of the most frustrating BS ever. Not to mention, you can't trade with other people. I thought this was supposed to be an MMO. I can't trade with other people. And then the loot system is completely broken. Like, completely broken. It's randomized, so even though you unlock an exotic gold object, you go to decrypt it, and guess what? It could give you a green or blue object, which means a basically uncommon or rare object instead of the actual exotic object that it's supposed to be. It is incredibly frustrating. This game, this is what's funny, is Destiny is supposed to be a 10-year platform, so excuse me. But Destiny is supposed to be a 10-year platform, and oh my god, I'm trying. And this is what's funny, is that my friends were like, "Oh, it's a 10-year platform, though. It's not all the content. It's gonna be adding more content over time." And they keep describing it as an MMO, which is hilarious because we've had rumors, and actual Bungie themselves have confirmed that they're working on a sequel to Destiny. And I thought, and according to what my friends say, MMOs don't have sequels. And the thing is, I'm so salty over this still, because I bought the freaking Legendary Collector's Edition. What did I do that for? I spent $150 on this game. I got the season pass for this game, and I have no interest to even play it. I have all the DLC. I have no interest to play it. The only thing of the whole collector's edition that I like is the fact that I get a Dinklebot, a life-size Dinklebot that talks and lights up. But why did I spend $150 on this bullshit? Oh, I should have sold this. I should have sold this on eBay for hundreds of dollars, damn near $1,000. Some of these editions were going for, because I could have made like a lot of money selling the freaking collector's edition for this game. I was the only person at my GameStop who got this edition of the game. Everyone else who pre-ordered the legendary edition, or whatever it was called, I forgot, got their pre-orders canceled. Because there's such high demand and such low supply, they canceled everyone else's pre-order except mine. And I just wish that if I knew what I knew now, I would have sold the freaking collector's edition of the game. I would have freaking made like upwards of $600 selling this thing on eBay, and I would have just paid for the standard edition of the game. What a freaking disappointment. If there's going to be a Destiny 2, yes, I'm probably going to play it because I play everything. But I swear, I mean, this was a lesson. This was a life lesson to not buy into the hype and to spend your money intelligently. And what I did was I did not spend my money intelligently regarding Destiny. I wasted it on $150. I wasted $150 on a collector's edition for a game that sucked, and I have no interest to ever play again, except for a competitive multiplayer, which is fun. What a pathetic piece of shit.
Alright, so those are my top 5 most disappointing games of 2014. Unfortunately, those games just didn't do it for me. Now, we're going to be taking a look at our top 10 best stories of 2014. Alright, now again, I like to give every single game its fair shake. This is why I sort of separate the best graphics, or the most visually immersive games rather, the most enjoyable games, as well as the best stories, because certain games excel in different categories and not every single game can be Game of the Year worthy. So this is why I do the Video Game Awards, is just to give every game its fair shot, and we're definitely going to be taking a look at some of the games that just did an outstanding job with their story and the writing and getting us emotionally involved, which video games have a very incredible way of getting us emotionally involved in story. It's really the next generation of storytelling when you look at it in terms of entertainment mediums out there, is what video games offer. So let's take a look at the top 10 best stories of 2014.
Number 10, Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments. So I'm glad I was able to actually play this game before the cutoff, before I played Far Cry 4, because after I played Far Cry 4, I didn't have time to play pretty much any of the remainder of the games. But this is an actual real good game, and I hope that many of you guys, after I'm done talking about it, you guys will please check it out, because it really is a good game. This takes Sherlock Holmes, the license, and puts it in a very dark, very mature, and just very, very mysterious world. You know, it doesn't mess around. This is the type of Sherlock Holmes games I think a lot of us were waiting for here. What we have is the story is pretty much, there's 6 cases that are going on, and these 6 cases have their own individual storylines, and each of the 6 cases is equally interesting as well as intelligently thought out. It's not really like I guess you can say it's not some of this, you know, BS amateur. Oh well, I gotta find all the clues, so I know exactly what's going on. You can try to guess what's going on throughout the game, but the game has twists and all these twists and turns and new mysteries to solve throughout the cases, that it'll be like you think You think one person is the culprit when it turns out that you find completely new evidence that leads you to believe someone else is. And it's this type of awesome thing that really just, it really is well thought out. And I really enjoyed playing this game, having a lot of fun with it. Please, if you guys have not checked this out, check it out. It is a great game. It's about 12 hours long. You have 6 cases that will take you about 2 to 3 hours to beat each. And it's just very intelligently done. They did a great job just working out the cases and writing it. And you're going to enjoy the banter between Sherlock and freaking can't remember his name. You know, Watson. Jeez, what's it? Freaking had a brain fart there. But anyway, definitely check this game out. And you'll definitely enjoy it if you're into this mystery solving sort of LA Noire type of game. Number 9, Infamous First Light. So Infamous First Light was a standalone game from Infamous Second Son, more so like a prequel. It really was to Infamous Second Son. It showed the character Fetch, and I actually like this story a lot better than Infamous Second Son, because this story for the first time had true emotion and character attachment. Fetch was a much more interesting character than Delsin was, and she was, and the way she was written was she definitely portrayed a much more emotional, attachable person than Delsin was. Because what we really had here is a story about her life, and she was, about her trying to redeem herself and save her brother. Her brother basically is in trouble, and she has to go through all these different things to save him. And there's all these twists that happen throughout the story, and the story keeps panning back between her being caught in Kern & K, and Kern & K is the facility run by Augustine, who basically she keeps all the conduits in there, keeps them safe. And yeah, she was just a great character in this DLC. We saw a side of her that we didn't see throughout the main game, and I just implore anyone who actually didn't play Second Son, if you want to just try out Infamous just to say, oh well, I wasn't really interested in Second Son, I don't know if I'm interested in this, definitely try this game out. It's free for PlayStation Plus, so you can just get it right now for free. And it's the same gameplay, but at the same time it has a really emotional story that just keeps you well invested throughout the experience. And I think it's much better paced and much more cinematic than the Infamous Second Son was. Number 8, Murdered Soul Suspect. Murdered Soul Suspect is a game that actually came out in June. I don't think a lot of you guys actually played it, unfortunately. The studio that made this actually shortly closed their doors after this game came out, because it wasn't really that critically well received. Which, again, I played this game and I'm like, I don't see what the problem is. It feels almost as if the mainstream media seems to put down games that are solely focused on their story, or that do strongly excel in the category of that from story. Because it's like there are people, it's unfortunate that we have this audience, people who believe that video games are always about the gameplay and it only matters about the gameplay, when in fact that the storytelling has always been a central part of entertainment as a medium. Has been storytelling. Even in music, it's all about storytelling. Movies is all about storytelling. Books is all about storytelling. And video games, pretty much for the most part, is all about storytelling. And it's like we have so much potential in this medium to tell a very compassionate, very emotional storyline that's built around the characters that inhabit this world. So Murdered Soul Suspect is a game that stars this basically young detective, this cop. He gets killed in the beginning of the game, and basically before he is allowed to gain entrance to the afterlife, he has to find out why he was killed and who killed him and for what purpose. And then this game pretty much has a cool history set with it. It actually takes place in Salem, Massachusetts. Again, if you guys actually studied history about the witch hunts and whatnot, this all actually intersects with the storyline, and there's some cool twists that go on. So I really enjoyed I really enjoyed this game from a story standpoint. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was about 8 to 10 hours long, and I enjoyed it a lot. It was a pretty good game. And it's another detective game. And it's one of those games that has like all these wide open levels, and you're gonna be walking around. You're gonna be exploring the environment, finding collectibles and whatnot in secret rooms, and just trying to find out why you died. And it's a very it's not so emotional, but at the same time you can see this character sitting there, and he's going to be coming across other ghosts who have not moved on, and they're talking to him about oh, most people get stuck here, don't worry, and they kind of given up on life. There are people who haunt others for revenge. I really enjoyed the storyline for this game, and it kept me invested to find out what's going on. I really liked the twist that was going on. It was very interesting, and at the same time, it had a very dark and scary tone to it, which I also liked. So I had a good time playing this game. Please definitely check it out. It has a great, interesting story, and you can get it pretty cheap now. So definitely give it a look. Number 7, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. So here's another game that built itself really strongly on its story. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a game more so about exploration and its gameplay more so than anything, but it still includes this story that keeps you emotionally well invested. You have this, it pretty much plays out like a narrative of a book. This guy is sort of telling you what's going on. He starts off with this mysterious sort of experience where it's like, the guy comes in, he's like, and he's talking about this kid who was sending him all these letters and that he needed help. And he basically comes to this small city, to find out what happened to this kid. And you arrive at the city and it's completely abandoned. You don't know what's going on. You don't know where everyone went. And as you're going through the levels, as you're exploring and getting to know the world more, the story starts unfolding more, and it turns out that there's some supernatural element to it. There's a bunch of weird stuff that goes on in the story, in the game, and it almost has like a fantasy element to it, but it's pretty fun. It kind of gets you thinking. And by the end of the game here, what we essentially have is this story here that ends on a very strong. It has a twist, and it ends like on this strong emotional note. It's one of those open-ended endings where I don't want to say it leaves you to figure out what's going on, but it's one of those stories that it's like a shock value ending. You have this kid here, this Ethan Carter, who was just being completely mistreated by his family, and when in fact, his passion is writing, his passion is storytelling. And so it's really interesting to find out what happened to him, and basically who you are in this world, and what your purpose is and where you belong. So it's definitely an interesting game. Like I said, it's out now for PC. Definitely check it out when it comes up on PlayStation 4. I think that you'll enjoy the hell out of it, and it's a really, really good game. Number 6, Assassin's Creed Unity. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Unity for its story. It is unfortunate, though. I do want to say a quick thing here, is that it starts off strong, and then unfortunately throughout the 20 to 55 to 60% of the game, between there, it starts to dwindle off, because it's supposed to be a love story between Arno and Elise. And it's kind of funny because the first half of the game, Elise is like nowhere to be found. Like after the first quarter of the game, it's like she disappears for a good, until like the latter half of the game, and then she like reappears. And when you have the Arno and Elise together, when their actual stories intersect each other, that is when the game really gets interesting, and that's when the story really picks up. And I really enjoyed the latter half of this game, where there's two people here who are in love, and they're trying to figure out, okay, is there a way that we can do. They all have a common goal. They both have a common goal, but the object is to figure out whether or not they could be together happily, and whether everything can go back normal to the way it was. And so it's very interesting to see the stories between those two intersect in that way. And really, it really is interesting. There's this awesome segment in the game where you're trying to chase a hot air balloon throughout rooftops, and then when you finally get there, you have this nice cutscene between the two of them, and then it's just one of those stories where you want to see the two of them live happily together, and not be bothered by all the assassins versus Templar stuff and everything in between. And so I really, really liked the way the story worked out. Again, the whole middle part of it, after Elise went away for the after Elise went away and she didn't reappear for like the second half of the game, it kind of was like but then when she came back, it was like, all right, I'm really liking this, and I really enjoyed it. So good job with the story for Assassin's Creed Unity. I hope that we have more following suit to it, so because it was definitely an enjoyable storyline, and cinematic and emotional in some spots as well. Number 5, D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die, Season 1. D4 has a very interesting storyline. Now, this is a quirky game. It's made by the guys who did Deadly Premonition, as I said before. And so naturally, it sort of has this, Asian culture to it that makes it fun and makes it interesting. And I don't know if any of you guys are actually into that. I'm not into anime or anything like that, but I do enjoy the culture surrounding it. And I really did enjoy how the culture surrounding it really helped pick this game up, because you have this colorful cast of characters here with all this great personality, but at the same time, a real emotional punch to the story that I didn't think that I didn't expect at all. You have this guy here has this special ability to revisit the past and investigate the past, right? And he's trying to find out what happened to his dead wife, why she basically got killed, and so and who killed her, more importantly. And he keeps being haunted by his dead wife. She comes back and he keeps kind of looking at the memories, and again, it's a very, very emotional part of the game. Anytime that she comes back and she's talking about how happy she is, or how she I don't know how just in general, like how she just enjoys and loves life. And it's basically him looking into the past and kind of remembering all the things that she said, or things that she would say to him if she was here now. And it just has this strong emotional punch to it, and I really, really like that. Unfortunately, this series didn't sell that well. I think it actually sold better now. But I think it actually sold up to 100,000 copies now, I think. I'm not really sure, right? But it didn't sell that well at first. I really hope we do get to see a second season here, because this is a game that I really enjoyed. It's an Xbox One exclusive. If you guys have an Xbox One, please, 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 please check it out, because it's really interesting and I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure you will too. But as far as the story goes, quirky, fun, interesting, mysterious, and packs a real good emotional punch. So if you're into that sort of stuff, this is definitely a game for you. Number 4, Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation story here was very, very interesting. I like this story a lot. You had this character, Amanda Ripley, trying to figure out what happened to her mother, and she's basically embarks on this quest with Weyland Yutani to recover the flight recorder on this space station called the Sevastopol. And of course, when you get there, you realize all hell breaks loose, and you're like, it's all dark and everything's destroyed, and there's people like panicking and running, and people's trying to survive, and you're like, just like, what happened? You're like freaked out. And so it sort of follows this. You're trying to, obviously, why it's like this. It's like no mistake. It's no mystery. That the alien got loose, but you're trying to figure out what's going on exactly. And it has the story is written so that it really does feel like it's part of the film, and that this could actually be a real sequel to the actual film that released. And that's what I really liked about it, is that it really did feel like it belonged in the universe. And it kind of makes you wanting them to do a sequel to the film, like imagine this day with all the technology and stuff, the visuals would have been amazing. But thanks to video games, we can actually deliver that, as well as getting you involved in the player experience here. But this story was really, really interesting. It was really built around the character of her trying to find out what happened to her mother. You start seeing more of an emotional punch towards the latter half of the game, which I really liked, especially when she finds out when she actually finds the actual recording from her mother. Just that moment of her feeling, just thankful, even though she doesn't actually find her mother. Just knowing that she's alive and stuff really just, again, it gets you really emotionally invested. I really enjoyed this game. From a story standpoint, it kept me well invested, and definitely please check it out. Like I said, the game sold 1 million copies already, which is just fantastic, and I really hope that we get to see more games that revisit the Alien universe in a survival horror setting just like this. Number 3, Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 2. The Walking Dead Season 2 had a the story was different from Season 1, because Season 1 was shock value, or Season 1 was emotional, Season 1 was all about the emotion, about setting up, and it was all about the characters and emotion. Season 2 was shock value. Season 2 was like heart-pounding, very, very you don't know what's coming type of a story here, where it was like every single second there was a twist, and at every single second there was like a moment where you're just like, you don't know what's going to happen next. It was shock value completely, not as much emotion. Again, towards the end of the last episode, you got a real emotional punch. At least I got a real emotional punch from the choices that I made. But really, it was really interesting to see how different it was. I didn't feel it was as strong as the first season. I still enjoyed the first season more because of its emotional punch. It was all about the emotion. It was about the characters. This one's all about shock value, but it still kept me really well invested. I still wanted to know what was going on. I still felt attached to the characters, and again, I still like the emotional punch it had towards the end of the last episode. So really, really good. We are going to see a Season 3. They actually confirmed that there is going to be a Season 3, so I'm really interested to see how your choices from Season 2 are going to be affected and moved over to Season 3. It's going to be really interesting. So, but good job with Season 2. I thought it was pretty good, and definitely earned a spot for the top 10 best stories. Number 2, Telltale's The Wolf Among Us Season 1. The Wolf Among Us Season 1 was awesome. I love this season. I love this series. In fact, this is something I wasn't really expecting, because the only reason I really got into The Wolf Among Us is because I watched a playthrough. I watched the first episode of the first episode playthrough from the season over at my friend's channel, Goat the Great, and he played the first episode, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting, and I kind of took a chance and I bought it right after I watched that first video he did of him playing through the first episode of the season. And I'm really, really glad I did. I loved this season, and I loved this series, and it was different from The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was more about emotion, about the characters, and about gritty, hardcore survival, very brutal. This was brutal, where it was more about the mystery. It was more about the action, and this whole series was really about style. It sort of put out this stylistic sense of, a really cool dark tone set with these characters that you've heard, the Fable characters and whatnot. And I really, really enjoyed it. If you guys had not actually picked this up because you're like, I'm not really into the whole Fable universe, and I mean, it's not really The Walking Dead, I don't really know, is it going to be that good? Please pick it up. It is an exceptional game from a story standpoint, and really does keep you well invested, and I really enjoyed it. I cannot wait for the second season to start. I think it's going to be freaking awesome, and I definitely just loved how just stylistic this game is. It really does keep you invested in everything. Just really, really awesome. So good job with The Wolf Among Us. I'm currently very, very eager to play the second season and to see how my choices really affect where the story goes. But if you haven't played it at all yet, definitely pick it up. It is a great, great game. Number 1, Wolfenstein: The New Order. How many of you are surprised right now? I'm sure everyone who's watching this is like, what? I did this 2 years ago, in 2012, when I did my best stories, and I chose Binary Domain as my number 1 for best story of the whole year of 2012. So Wolfenstein: The New Order had a fantastic story, because I played this game, right, and after I got done with the story, I was completely blown away. excellent twist and pacing throughout the story. You have an emotional character, a realistic character. Like I said, in my top 5 best protagonists, BJ Blazkowicz is definitely more realistically portrayed here, and he feels much more tangible and much more like a person who would actually exist today in the real world. I really, 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 really like this game. And like this game from a story standpoint. It was extremely emotional and strong. It had this great plot. You had these great cast of characters who all were equally interesting and all had a great personality. And it was just really, really well written. I'm very happy that this game turned out the way it was. Like I said, it was an advancement for the first-person shooter genre as a whole. I really, really loved it. If you guys have not picked up this game, I implore you, go pick it up right now. From a graphics, story, and gameplay standpoint, it is all around excellent, grade A quality stuff. But fantastic story. Definitely, I thought when it came down to it, me looking at all the stories throughout the rest of the year of the games I played, this definitely stood out as being my number one pick, because this story was just awesome, well written. It was mature. It dealt with some pretty gruesome themes, but at the same time, you had this emotional character. It felt real, and it felt like a story that wasn't just. It felt like a story that could exist almost. You know, this what if scenario. What if the Nazis actually did win in World War II and they would take over the world? It just set up the game for a bunch of different possibilities, and I'm so happy that the developers were able to deliver on a story that really was as interesting and as awesome as the rest of the whole game. Definitely pick it up. I loved the story. It was outstanding, and anyone who played this game, I definitely would agree with me on this, because it was just fantastic. So definitely pick it up. Wolfenstein: A New Order. It's my number one best story of 2014.
Alright guys, our final category. We're in the home stretch now. We're going to be taking a look at our top 5 most anticipated games of 2015. These are the games that I am looking forward to, the games I really, really cannot wait to play. So I hope a lot of you guys are excited for these games too, as much as I am. So let's take a look, and I'll see you guys back when we're done discussing them.
Number 5, Star Wars Battlefront. EA Star Wars Battlefront from DICE is sounding, I should say, to be really, really, really good. I hope that we're going to have like a full-on campaign here. I know that Star Wars Battlefront was more like an MMO type, so I hope that the new Battlefront from EA and DICE will be more about more I want to say, like, it's going to be open. I want it to be open, sort of a huge multiplayer side, maybe just like the original Battlefront was. And I never played the original Battlefront, so excuse me on this, but I hope that we also get a pretty awesome campaign included. It would be pretty freaking awesome. So I'm really looking forward to it. We should have gameplay. I think there's rumored to be gameplay reveal officially in March. But if not in March, definitely at E3 we're going to have some awesome gameplay. It's supposed to be out later this year. That's the target that they're shooting for. So they may even have a gameplay demo playable at E3, which would be awesome. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think Star Wars Battlefront is going to be freaking awesome. It's going to be awesome to get into a Star Wars game in that universe on the next generation of consoles and hardware, as well as just the full scale. And that DICE is known for creating big scale multiplayer matches with the Battlefield franchise, so they're definitely going to do an awesome job with Star Wars Battlefront. I cannot wait for it. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. Number 4, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. This would have not have been a game on the list if I didn't play Ground Zeroes, because Ground Zero was such an awesome game. I had so much fun playing that, and I cannot wait for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Every single video I see of The Phantom Pain, the gameplay, it looks fantastic. Graphics look good, steady 60 frames per second, the gameplay looks awesome, and just the amount of stuff you can do is freaking incredible. Troy Baker actually said on Twitter and stuff, he was saying that he was comparing Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain's open world to that of Skyrim, saying it was humongous, which would just be fantastic, because Skyrim was freaking huge, and that this is just gonna be a huge game if it's on that level of scale. So I'm looking forward to Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I think the story is going to be freaking awesome. The graphics already look fantastic. And just seeing that open world, seeing with the gameplay that we've had and just the amount of stuff you can do, it's going to be really, really awesome. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to it. So Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, cannot wait for it to come out. Number 3, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. So how can you not put The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt as one of your most anticipated games? Like, seriously? This game is going to have 36 different endings. What other RPG have you played? What other game have you played that had 36 different endings? And they're sitting there and they're kind of like, making fun of Skyrim, saying, well, Skyrim was pretty bare bones compared to what we have for The Witcher 3. And that's just freaking awesome. I cannot wait to play this game, and just the openness, the fact that you're going to be able to go anywhere, that's going to be 20% bigger than Skyrim, the amount of graphics and detail in the world, and the game looks much more streamlined. I played The Witcher 2 and I thought it was okay. It was a little bit too complicated for me on the RPG side, but on the fact that they're going to be simplifying it for The Witcher 3, they're going to be making it much more intense, much more fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be freaking awesome. It's gonna be like a third-person Skyrim, or like a humongous, and even I guess it's gonna be comparable to Dragon Age Inquisition that released last year, but it might even be larger than that. So this game looks freaking awesome. I cannot wait to play it. It got delayed. It was supposed to come out in October, got delayed to February, and then got delayed again to May. But that's okay. I don't mind that. So I think it's gonna be freaking awesome, and I can definitely not wait to play it. It's gonna be just crazy. So looking forward to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Number 2, Quantum Break. I am super excited for Quantum Break. It is my most anticipated Xbox One title coming out in 2015. It's gonna be awesome. I had a good time with Alan Wake. I thought Alan Wake was good. Kind of got repetitive towards the ending of the game because it was kind of like the same structure. But I really enjoyed the original Max Payne. I thought that was a good game. And just, Remedy in general is known for really putting out quality stuff. So Quantum Break looks really interesting. The graphics look freaking outstanding. The way it's going to work is that you're going to have the game is going to be all about the heroes, you playing as the heroes, and it's actually going to coincide with the TV show. And this TV show, you're going to have after playing through a couple levels of the game, you're going to have an option to watch an episode from this TV show. And the TV show is going to actually follow the storyline of the villains. So you're going to be learning throughout this game. You're going to be playing the game as the heroes against the villains. And then you're going to be watching the show. Learning about the villains, plotting against the heroes. It looks really, really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. The gameplay looks fantastic, looks varied. The fact that you're going to have all these different time powers looks freaking awesome. And like I said, the visuals alone just look great. And that graphically, or in terms of its storytelling, that they're going to tell probably a dark, mysterious, noirish storytelling that they did with Max Payne as well as Alan Wake. So looking forward to it. Cannot wait to play it. And it's supposed to come out, rumor, spring 2015. However, I think it may get delayed to the fall, to be honest. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be awesome. Number 1, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. Everyone knows that I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted series. It is the reason I got a PS3, because of the first Uncharted. So naturally, I am super, 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 super excited for Uncharted 4. It looks really awesome. It's important to note here that this is actually being worked on by the guys. It's Naughty Dog, yes, and most of the team who did the original Uncharted trilogy here. But it's a different writer this time. We actually have the guy who wrote The Last of Us, and he was a co-writer on Uncharted 1 as well. So he's going to be writing the story for Uncharted 4 because Amy Hennig left to work for Visceral. She now works at Visceral now. So we have him working on the Uncharted 4 script, so I guess we could expect, definitely, I don't think a darker tone, because they said they're going to keep it in line with what the series is known for, which is that sort of cheeky, humorous, sort of having that good time, that adventure tone to it. It's not going to be so dark and so depressing as The Last of Us was, but I think that it's still going to be mature. and it's still going to take itself very seriously. I always felt that Amy Hennig, although was a very, very, very good writer and really brought the Uncharted series up, I always felt that her weakness was that she wasn't able to really get rid of any of the certain characters. I really felt that Sully, as much as I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but I really felt that Sully should have died in Uncharted 3. I felt that that would have made the story much more emotionally impactful. I know a lot of people here are going to be watching me hear that or say that, and they're going to be like, "You're such a dick, man. Sully's a great character. What, you don't like Sully?" And it's like, it's not the fact that I don't like Sully. I mean, I love Sully, of course. You know, it's not that, but it's the fact that you want your story to be emotionally impactful. And I felt that Uncharted 3 could have been so much more emotionally impactful if it would have been a closure for Sully as a character. So what I can tell you in Uncharted 4, I think a lot of people are going to die in Uncharted 4, like a lot of the cast. I think Sully's going to die in Uncharted 4, I really do. And I feel like Nathan Drake is going to die in Uncharted 4. I feel like he's going to give his life for something just crazy. So I really feel it's going to be, it's not going to be so dark that it doesn't feel like it's, part of the universe, but I feel like the story is going to take all these different directions and twists, and it's going to travel it's going to go in a certain direction that we haven't seen the series gone before, and I'm really excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. In addition, the graphics look fantastic. We saw the gameplay over at the PlayStation Experience, and it looked really good. I know some people are like, it doesn't look as good as the teaser trailer, but they have a year to work on it, and I know that Naughty Dog's going to do a fantastic job graphically. And we also have the gameplay, and they're promising much more open, much more exploration, encouraging gameplay here, where you're going to have these large levels, much larger than we saw at the PlayStation Experience, and you're going to have different directions enabled that you're going to be able to go. And just if you actually look at the beginning of the gameplay demo that we saw at the PlayStation Experience, there's different ways you can go on the island. There's different directions and stuff like that you can actually travel in, which is freaking awesome. So I'm really looking forward to Uncharted 4. I think it's going to be amazing. And just, seeing that we're going to have the guy who did The Last of Us, the writer for that, now taking on the role of writing Uncharted 4, I think we're going to have a story that stays true to what Uncharted is about, but at the same time isn't afraid to go in any direction that may be shocking to a lot of other people. I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait for Uncharted 4 to release. It is my most anticipated game of 2015.
All right. That was it. That was the 2014 VGAs, my personal video game awards of last year. Again, I want to thank you all just for being patient as I got this out. It was a lot of work just to play all the games, get all this footage edited and then uploaded and recorded and stuff. I was just really on a heavy time constraint. Again, I want to say a big apology to the following games I wasn't really able to play. I didn't play Drive Club, I didn't play The Crew, I didn't play Grid Autosport, didn't play Trials Fusion, and didn't play Shadow Warrior. Unfortunately, I just did not have enough time. I will be checking out those games throughout the course of 2015 as we do have downtime. But thank you guys so much just for being patient as I'm getting it out there and really sticking in there. And if you guys watch this start to finish in one sitting, you guys are amazing. Even those of you guys who watched a little bit of it and then came back to it over the course of like a few days, I definitely appreciate your viewership and you guys sitting here and watching all this. I know it's a really long awards show. I sort of run it like as long as the actual VJs that were streamed online earlier last year. I should say last year. It was last year, right? December of last year. So I really do appreciate you guys sticking in there and watching it and letting you guys know what your thoughts are, whether you disagreed with me or agreed with me. Definitely thank you guys for just sticking in there and watching it completely. I'll see you guys next year. We're going to be taking a look at all the games again that came out in 2015 and awarding it. It's going to be an award show just like this. And I cannot wait to get back in there and play it and have a good time. So thanks guys. Have a good one. I will see you all next year and have a happy game-filled 2015. Thanks, guys.